How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of No Excuses on BTWProductions.com and YouTube.com. The favorite show hosts are still
Venerian.
And Volosel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week. But first of all, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server, which you can easily get to by clicking on the link provided in the description underneath the show archive on YouTube. And there you can talk to the hosts of the show, you can post the spiciest and dankest of memes, or you can, I presume, get the information to join the Minecraft server and see what the insane people, especially Abo, have been doing on that server.
As of this morning, destroying the world and rebuilding it in his own image. So that's happened.
Yeah, we didn't enable one of the biome mods when we first loaded the server by accident, or I didn't because I was the one doing it at first. I just gave Abo access to the admin console since he plays a lot more. He has a lot more time to get on and play.
And he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and he do what he do. So he loaded up some kind of program that lets him view the entire map that's already been generated, and then select chunks to keep and reset the rest of it. So he did that and reloaded the new world with the biome mod and the biome mod enabled. So we have a lot more biomes available. But that involved nuking that all sections of the world that we currently didn't inhabit or have something built. Though he did spend a lot of time talking about how he was fine-tuning it and making it look good while he was resetting it and picking what parts of chunks to reload. So I'm totally expecting there to just be a bunch of Idolmaster stuff carved into the face of a mountain somewhere in the world.
Almost certainly, yes. Alright, so yeah, on the stream today, possibly to our great shame, I'm playing a bit of old school RuneScape because...
Bruh, why would you even?
Hey, I've been logging on quite a bit the past 2 or 3 weeks just because it's easy to do with one hand.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Why does this resident have a room full of chickens?
Why wouldn't you have a room full of chickens?
Because they're smelly and they're noisy and they really quite awful things to have close.
But yeah.
Well, I guess I've got to grant you that.
So first, just on a free-to-play account, I dropped $8 on the membership. It's not that bad to get the WoW tokens equivalent.
Man, how does it feel going back to the good old days of being a paying RuneScape player?
Old.
I tell you what, even the little bit of free-to-play I was doing, freaking, it's impossible to play as free-to-play because you can't level agility. And if you can't level agility, your run energy regenerates so slowly.
Why would you put a stat behind the paywall?
Oh, tons of stats are behind the paywall. You can't go thieving. You can't do herblore. You can't train agility. You can't do Slayer quests. You can't build your own house or do the hunter skill or a few. I think there's 1 or 2 others that are totally locked out.
Jeez.
Because they need to
just how jank this old game is because of just when it was made.
Yeah, there's no conveniences here. Your inventory is forever limited to those 28 slots.
Yeah, this game was made before a lot of the modern conventions of MMOs came.
Yeah, so I actually looked up a history of what happened here and why the game came out the way it is. So right before the Grand Exchange came out, somebody had made a backup of this entire source code for the game and all the servers at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And just stashed that away in a locker somewhere. And then RuneScape started doing really dumb things and their player base started to dwindle. And they got super microtransaction heavy focused and they had like a loot box system and it was really bad in what's now called RuneScape 3.
Yeah, which nobody plays.
So after that, somebody at the company went up to the head honcho and said, look, there's a lot of people that remember this game from way back when, but they absolutely hate the game now. I bet we could win a lot of them back if we just put up an old school server. And like World of Warcraft, it took him a bit, not nearly as long, but after he proposed it in like 2017, about 6 months later, he's like, "All right, yeah, we'll try it. We'll try anything because we're bleeding subscribers so hard." And so they made it, and they reloaded that old 2007 copy they had in that warehouse, and it became so popular they had to keep accommodating it with more and more servers and more features, like the polling system.
Yep.
So that they could keep track of the player base. And at current, I think old school RuneScape has 5 times the amount of players as current RuneScape.
Yeah, I've not seen anybody talking about RuneScape 3. But whenever someone does talk about RuneScape, they're almost always talking about either old school RuneScape or RuneScape 1, which is, basically old school RuneScape.
Yeah, they finally took those servers permanently offline this year, I think. Because nobody played RS Classic. Everybody only plays OSRS, which is what the old school RuneScape.
No, RS Classic is still going.
Oh, right. You can't make a RS Classic account to add to the server population, but you can play if you had an account.
Okay. But, whatever happened to RuneScape 2 anyway?
This is RuneScape 2.
How?
OSRS is what used to be called RuneScape 2.
Right, gotcha. Alright, so I've just come to the mainland, and this is bringing back really horrible memories.
Oh, what world are you in?
Good question. Let me
press the log out button, and it'll tell you.
Yeah.
At risk of giving them too much credit, I guess I can at least say that Blizzard, for all the other many failings, were at least capable of recognizing that this type of phenomenon that befell Jagex is the reason why it is not and will never be worth making a World of Warcraft 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and what's your character name?
Actually, I should have a friend's request there for you, because it makes you do that as part of the tutorial now.
No, I don't, but I can join your world and see if that is... You're in 426?
Yeah, 426. So,
I can...
yeah, it's old. It's not the same as I remember it, but like this is from 2001. I think I actually really last looked at this game.
Yeah. You're not McTard. You're not 26 Abyssal 6969.
Because of course somebody has to call themselves something edgy crap like that. Oh, there you are, right there. Stay there. Yeah.
Okay.
Were you XX Darkforge XX on this game as well?
No, I was Debonair spelled wrong.
Debonair spelled
really?
Wrong.
Really?
Did you deliberately spell it wrong, or were you just the sort of person who was always convinced that their instinct for spelling was correct and they didn't need to look anything up?
Hang on.
Yeah. Why is it saying you're offline when you're standing right there?
Because I haven't added you as a friend yet.
Oh, there you go.
But no, it was the actual Debonair spelled right was taken, so I thought, well, I'll just get the closest thing I can because I was attached to the name and couldn't think of anything else.
It makes you look like such a dork.
I was what, 12, 13 when? No, might have been younger when I made that name.
I guess I've always been too OCD to deliberately spell something wrong.
Yeah, it annoys me no end unless it's like a pun or something. Actually, that's more annoying.
No, goblins are not the first thing you do here, Fern.
But there's goblins here and they need whacking, so I'm gonna whack them. Even though the rewards are crap and I'm not actually doing any damage. So yeah. Whack. Hey, I hit him. So yeah. This is
no.
This is as bad as old school as it gets.
Yeah, this is how you begin every RuneScape game.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the only
Follow
MMO
me.
that's still going that you could probably call even more old school than old school RuneScape is probably Ultima Online. Which is apparently still going.
Is it the official server still going?
Apparently, yeah. There's a bunch of those old games are still going.
Okay, Fern.
Let's just beat some cows up.
Yep. Are these people being stupid on this server? Yes, they are. Okay, run behind everybody that leaves their bones and bury their bones and kill the cows.
Oh, because prayer points, right?
Yeah. Every RuneScape game
playing-
begins with punching cows.
Yeah.
I remember playing a little bit of the original RuneScape. My brother played quite a bit of it, and he even paid some money into playing it, I believe. But I couldn't understand the draw, to be honest. I wasn't sure why it was so popular. Like I was playing Guild Wars at the time,
Yep.
and the idea that somebody would offer me RuneScape as an alternative to my experience in Guild Wars was completely incomprehensible to me.
Yeah, that would be. I need to figure out what on earth I want to build my character to be, but I'm probably
You
not gonna
don't.
play that much.
No. And you'll wind up leveling everything.
Yeah.
And if you do the right quests, they give you so much EXP and things like attack, defense, and strength that you don't really need to worry about it too much.
Yep.
The only thing you can't get a lot of experience in is magic.
Because of the magic system being in this game being, good lord.
Well, it just means you have to go through that to level it up. So as soon as you can make some kind of money, I highly recommend you level magic. Because you can't teleport anywhere unless you spend money on absurdly pricey teleport items without magic.
That's just a nuisance. Although, it's less so much of a nuisance in the free version because you can just walk everywhere and the world's not as big.
Yeah, if you can't press M or anything, but if you open the world map to show people on the stream, everything up to the wilderness border up there. I don't think you can go in the wilderness if you're free to play. You might be able to.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so only in that bottom wilderness chunk, and everything in between the river, not the river we're on right now, but the river to the right of that one.
Whoops, zoomed out too far.
Yeah. So on the Kingdom of Mistilhane or whatever it's in that we're in right now, and is as far as we can go. And the Kingdom of whatever you call that, Agarnia.
There we go.
So you can't cross the wall that goes to the left over there.
It is a literal paywall.
Yeah, the door is permanently open on member servers, and on free-to-play servers it's closed.
Yep.
Same deal on the right. On the right side, you cannot go to the west of Varric, or east of Varric.
Yeah. But there's another paywall there.
Yeah.
Where was that? Was it a bridge, I think? Going around here somewhere, maybe? Anyway. So, yeah. But yeah, you can go up to the wilderness. You can't go up to the northmost bit. That's another paywall across there.
Yeah, you can't go to the new islands that they've added post launch. They've contained most of their new stuff on stuff either in unused chunks of the continent, or they just added islands.
Heh.
Or you'll see that big black block down there. They're going to stick a feature patch there in
Yep.
the Caridin Desert. There's just a big black block on your map. There's literally nothing there right now.
It's just a big old void of nothing.
Yeah, you can't even walk there. It just says you don't think you can proceed any further and turns you around.
Yeah, because there's nothing there.
So they'll stick stuff there, and if you scroll around the map, you'll see a whole bunch of islands that weren't there when you used to play. That's because that's all the new content they've added post revival. They've stuck it all there.
I think Lunar Island was there, but
Might have been one or two that were there.
yeah, I think there was
But,
one or two out there, but that was about it.
Yeah, the only one that I know for sure was there was Karamaja,
Yeah, Karamaja was there.
because it was a fishing hotspot.
Yeah.
But it's the only one that was there. Everything else, they didn't want the stuff impacting the classic game very much, so they try to keep all their new content isolated from the world of the old game.
Yeah, where was Tutorial Island?
To the south of Lumbridge, like straight, like go. It's
hang on, I don't know where I
literally
am, actually.
yeah. We're
Oh,
at
yeah, there it
Lumbridge. It's just straight south.
It's right there. You can see it from the Wizard's Tower.
You can.
Why would you want to? So we're just going to beat up
Yeah.
rather goofy looking cows. Although I probably
So,
should
yeah.
eat something.
Yeah, I can get you. No, do I have any free to play food?
Nah.
Just take their beef back to the kitchen and
Yeah,
in
I'll just
Lumbridge and cook
collect
it.
a bit of beef and cook it. So
Or
anyway,
you got an axe. Go cut down a tree and cook it over a fire.
yeah, or something. So anyway, as for weeks, had a bit of a mixed bag of a week. I admit I'm kind of now that May or the end of March rather is hitting. We're starting to get a lot of good launches of games.
Mm-hmm.
And a few of them I'm not going to play immediately, like the Lucifer's Call remake, because it's stupidly expensive.
Yeah.
Not only that, but you need to really dedicate yourself to that one.
That one is
Like-
pain.
Yeah, you need
Like, you need to sink your teeth into it and commit to just getting through, no matter how much it abuses you.
Yeah,
like that's 120 hours of active focus right there.
starring Dante from Devil May Cry.
You know, I don't recall anybody ever saying that they had figured out a way to totally break that game.
I don't think
Because
No.
normally in a JRPG, there'll be some build, somebody will figure it out. Oh, all you've got to do is build this. If you really don't care about the game experience, just build this, and you'll be able to womp everything, and you can just play it on story mode, basically. But I don't remember anybody ever doing that for Nocturne. It was just...
Yeah,
dear.
it was just,
Yeah,
here's pain. Enjoy.
yeah, and it's even weirder in that game because people have to decide if they're playing the only version we got in the West. They have to decide if they want to beat Lucifer, the super final boss, and have a better character build for him specifically, or if they want to instead build for the entire rest of the game, because he is the one boss where you want to be a magic user or a physical user, not a magic user.
Yeah.
The rest of the game, it is much better to be physical because you can get Pierce Fizz for defense, so you can guarantee hits.
So yeah, that's a game that's going to require commitment. So I'm going to sit on that one for a little bit.
Yeah, and then you got to remember the Magatama system and how they level up and how the experience is distributed and how not to spend your points in it. And you got to
Yeah.
remember, you got to know what demons to fuse, and you got to remember that you accidentally fused the wrong demon that makes, I think it's Lananshi or something, that you can have Sukikaja on it around Matador. And
You know, I don't remember using any kind of strategy to get through Matador. I remember just face checking him over and over until I beat him.
You can.
I mean, I guess
outgrind him. I guess.
I guess you could just get stupidly lucky because all he does is buff his evasion and his chance to hit.
Yeah, I think I just went at him until I managed to kill him. I couldn't. I either had painted myself into a corner, or I didn't have any, or I didn't have any idea what I was supposed to do to beat him. But one way or another, I think that I just bashed my face on him until he was dead.
Yeah. Yeah, that is certainly one way to do it. But yeah. So yeah, other games. I'm a little bit salty because Monster Hunter Rise released yesterday, and because it released on a Saturday, my copy doesn't ship until Monday.
Is that the Switch one?
That's the Switch one.
Okay. My Switch is still having shoes, and I just have not had the motivation to fix it.
Yeah. That's fine. I've still got Persona Scramble to go, or Strikers rather, depending on which version you're talking about.
I posted in our video games channel the true reason that Fern is excited about Monster Hunter Rise.
Oh,
Doggo.
I dare look.
It's got to be Doggos.
Where is it? Video games.
Yeah, it's Doggos.
It's Doggos. Of course, it's Doggos. Doggos is definitely that additional point.
In total, Monster Hunter Rise has 4 different dog petting animations that players can initiate at almost any time.
That makes them Game of the Year immediately because you can pet the doggo multiple ways. This is the leader in dog petting technology.
Dog.
Also, Doggo is actually really, really fun to play with in the game.
TV dog.
TV dog. So yeah, still going with Persona. I think I've reached a point in the game where it's entering spoiler territory. You really should start playing the game yourself now.
Yeah, as soon as I'm not completely swamped, I will happily check it out.
Yeah.
As soon as they don't ask me to sell a kidney to purchase it, I'll happily check it out.
Yeah, there is that. Did get a bit salty though, because I was at no point in the game tell you that a fusion fail is a thing. So I was wondering, are they actually in this game? Turns out yes.
Most of the time, they're really good because they get boosted stats.
Yeah, they are, but they actually gave me a really crap persona when it went off. So
What'd you get?
Oberon, I think.
Oberon's normally a really high level Sona.
Yeah, but not at the point of the game it gave it to me.
I don't know if I would say that. He's normally, in my experience, he's normally falls into that sort of upper mid category that everybody skips over.
Yeah, but I'd well outpaced him at that point in the game. But it also happened right when I was fusing the persona I needed for one of the Velvet Room quests. So that was half my money down the toilet.
Oh, because you need them. Do you need to get ones with a specific skill equipped?
Yeah, all the persona. It's the same ones, Velvet Room quest, as all the other persona games. It's like make this persona with that ability.
Yeah, make a Jack Frost with Mazio or something.
Yeah. And the first few are fairly easy. Some will only need maybe one fusion to do. I think some of the later ones need more.
Just wait a little bit and get skill cards, and then just get the skill cards.
This game's actually surprisingly generous with skill cards. You get them all
Yeah,
over the place.
Are they just one and done use them skill cards, or do you have to use them while fusing?
I believe they are one and dones.
Okay, so yeah, just wait until you get the skill cards you need. Look up what drops it.
TMs.
TMs, basically, yeah.
Yeah, skill cards for most Shin Megami Tensei games, except for the most recent ones, were not just one and dones.
Yeah, once you get them, you can keep using them in fusions.
Yeah, you would get them, and you were allowed one fusion you could use them in.
So it's the opposite of Pokemon.
Yeah, and you could just replace one of the blank slots on the resulting monster with the whatchamacallit.
Yeah. Some things I'm still really enjoying the game. I still have no idea whether or not it's actually going to follow through on the whole calling the Phantom Thieves out on their hypocrisy yet, but maybe? But,
oh, man.
Yeah. There is one little bit of heresy that seems to have happened, though, and that is Haru gets screen time.
What?
Alright. The third dungeon actually skips
trivial footnote?
Yeah. The third dungeon breaks the pattern, so Haru is actually the central focus of that one. Rather than just following the same sequence they did for the first game, like the first two did.
Yeah, I was sort of a bit taken aback by how basically irrelevant she was in so much of the story, because like I feel like it was just sort of a very minor sort of technical writing gaffe that undermined her, which was that they made her introduction about Morgana instead of about her.
Yeah.
And that pretty much screwed her opportunity to be in the focus.
It was also way too late in the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's somebody ends up having that problem always.
Always. Yeah. Looks like when Zenkichi is going to become a Persona user. It's fairly obvious at this point, but he's at least there in the game right from the very start. He kind of comes and goes from the storyline before he becomes a major character and starts actively. Well, hell, he drives the Phantom Thieves around for fair bit.
Yeah.
Until they just invade his house.
Yeah, it's been spoiled for me that he's a playable character from just the trailers.
Yeah, look at the UI actually, and there's a gap at the bottom of the both the character select menus every time it comes up. There's an obvious gap there.
So it's like that how it's like anime where the starting sequence will have one of the characters appear as a silhouette until they appear in the main storyline, but everybody knows who it is.
Yeah. So the question is how. I'm not sure if the final, like the fourth prison, is actually where they start really explaining what a prison actually is. So I'm not going to spoil a lot of what that is. But yeah, that's where the story really starts to give some answers and hit a few plot notes.
Is it actually interesting, or is it just a cheap excuse to do the palaces again?
I'm thinking it's a bit interesting at this point. Like, if they're going where I think they're going with them, it's actually a very sad way of doing things. Where a palace is basically a bad thing. It's the world just it's the person's desire distorted, that which causes the treasure, and that builds the palace around it. The prison is kind of the direct opposite, but I'm not going to spoil that. Because, yeah, it is still fairly a new game.
Yes, and
but if they don't lower the price, then I'm not going to get to play it for a long time.
But it's an Atlas game, so they're not lowering the price anytime soon.
Yep. You gotta wait till the next edition comes out, then they do the price drop.
Yeah, that's the obnoxious thing about Atlas games is that it's actually faster for me to wait for a sale to happen of like the physical copy.
Mm-hmm.
Like the problem with Atlas problems are that are different depending on what platform. If you're looking at the digital platform, the problem is it never goes on sale. If you look at the physical platform, it does go on sale, but they have like single-digit stock at any given store.
Yes.
So no matter which way you go, you're screwed. Deeply frustrating.
It is still a very good game. I'd say Persona 5 was still better, but Persona 5 was so damn good that, yeah, it's not... No, it's a hard act to follow, honestly, but for a spin-off game, it's alright. Especially after you get through the first prison where... the first jail where the combat actually starts to make sense. I'm actually kind of salty about that, because the game starts you off and the combat feels really clunky, because no character has the abilities they need to make the combat flow. So you've got that initial grind where everything is kind of clunky and awful for a bit.
Yeah, that was a big turnoff playing it. I don't like Musou games in general. Well, I don't...
Musou games in general don't have that problem, because they give you... Usually, most well-constructed ones that aren't, Fate X Stellar 1, have a well-constructed basic combo that has a whole bunch of options available to you and looks natural and functions naturally, and everything else is just garnishing. When they are constructed well. Like, you see when you get to the point where you've got some of the latest Dynasty Warriors one, like the Warriors Orochi series and that, where they've got 50 bajillion characters, they generally are pretty well matured at that point and have a lot of options available to you from the get-go, while still offering sort of headroom to grow the character's abilities, unless you're playing a Samurai Warriors character, in which case you're just bashing your face against the wall.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe there's a way to play those things cool, but they don't seem to work very well to me.
No, Samurai Warriors games always just feel off. But
I feel like they just do things differently to be different, and they end up doing things in a way that is inferior.
Yeah. So in the case of Strikers, most of the core combos they're fairly standard. They're straightforward. It's usually your standard X is usually a buff of some description, or in case of Joker, it's just shoot them once with your gun. But then you go, usually the second one is some sort of physical attack. The third is a persona elemental, and then the fourth is some special. Most of the characters follow that pattern. But you can't counter off dodges. You can't do follow-up attacks. You can do all-out attacks, but unless you're willing to burn SP, you're not really going to be knocking down too many enemies to take advantage of that.
How long does it take for the inevitable SP Band-Aid to come in?
Probably about halfway through the second jail.
Okay.
Once you...
When do you get the item that restore SP after every encounter?
Oh, that's actually on your bond.
Okay.
So,
that's all you need.
Yeah. Save your first maybe 10 bond points to get that. You get one version which is just a straight up after every encounter, you get a bit of health and SP back. There's also another one for successful ambushes.
Okay.
And-
Because
Yeah.
that I had to leave the Dungeon because I ran out of SP, and I'm not used to these type of games, so I blew it all early
Yep.
on mini bosses.
Yep. So that's a big design thing, and I'm not the first one to point this out. A lot of other people pointed out is there's no time mechanic for the game. All the time jumps are due to plot, which means there's absolutely no reason you need to go to a checkpoint in the dungeon, leave the dungeon to get your health and SP back, then immediately turn around and come back in again.
So there's absolutely no penalty to leaving the dungeon. Why do you need an SP battery then, like I was waiting on? Could I just leave whenever I want and then teleport right back to where I was?
Well, when you leave and come back in, it resets all the shadows.
Yeah, but they reset if you get more than 2 rooms away anyway.
Exactly. So there's really no reason why you shouldn't just be able to go to a checkpoint, give it a poke, and give you HP and SP back. It will save you like 2 loading screens. So yeah, that's a niggle, a rather glaring niggle.
Yeah. Well, I guess having SP problems return the first little bit of a Persona game is
Persona.
part of or just SMT game in general is kind of part of the, I guess we can call it appeal.
Appeal?
That's not the word I'd use for it, but go on.
No, there's no more to it. It's just that's what.
Yeah, it's a standard thing. It's expected for an SMT game. But I'm still enjoying it. The plot's going somewhere at least. Probably not necessarily where I'm expecting it to go, but yeah. Yeah, I know we rag on that one big gaping plot point for Persona, but Persona 5 is so close to perfect except for that. It just makes that flaw big. A lot more obvious.
There's a lot of smaller things with how the characters are done, the pacing of some of the characters' social links, and how just they don't have the same impact as other characters did in other games.
I can still not remember Shogi Girl's name.
Yeah. And then, like, do you remember Ryuji's story in the main game, other than track and field?
Bits of it.
Doesn't it involve a lot of time in the gym working out?
That's basically, it's just do bro things with Ryusuke, and he complains about his track team.
Yeah, eventually he does confront his demons, I guess, but
They're not really very interesting demons, though.
they're not very interesting demons, exactly.
They're just a bunch of
Jerks.
asshoes.
So, yeah. I need to throw that away. Alright, off to Varric. Very slowly. So yeah, it is definitely still worth your time. I don't think, unless you're like a real big Persona fan, it's worth the asking price.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a real big Muso fan, and I'm a modest Persona fan.
Yeah. Which means it should be worth the asking price for you, but I still wouldn't say it is.
I'm not wealthy. I'm not wealthy, man.
I only got it because I had a big weekend and had a bit of extra cash laying around.
I might get it because I have one of those they call them Prezzy cards here, but they're basically disposable credit cards that act as a gift card.
Yep.
I got one in a hamper from work because they had to cancel all the end of year activities, and so they gave us a bonus of a hamper full of in addition to all of those who didn't stop working for lockdown, who got a rather impressive cash bonus considering the usual stinginess. Though everybody got a hamper full of usual hamper stuff and a Prezzy card of a reasonable chunk of change. I can't remember how much, but it wasn't too bad. So maybe, since I don't know how to use the sodding thing, if I can get it to go into my Steam wallet, maybe I'll end up getting it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the game sitting on my hard drive. It's ready to play. I can't motivate myself to do it, especially.
Oh, I have an important question about it. A very important question. Well, it's very important to me, which is, can I plug and play my PlayStation controller with it? Because Steam seems to be a bit janky about that sometimes.
I couldn't tell you. I'm actually playing on the Switch version.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm playing the PS4 version, so I don't know.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I will get the Steam version and we can compare them to see if they all work properly. Because as we may end up talking about, different platform games sometimes don't quite line up with each other.
Yeah.
That's in the news this week.
Yeah, we'll come back to that later on. As far as other games go, not a whole lot. Just still picking away at the Minecrafts
Yeah.
because it's
I-
a nice little relaxing time killer.
Well, you and Abo have been picking away at the Minecraft, so I have not had time to log on at all.
Yeah. Oh hey, cape.
Free cape.
Free cape. I got it from a dude.
Enjoy your 2 defense bonus to a few things.
Hey, I'll take it. It's better than the 0 I had before.
Mine has 4% run energy recharge on it. And reduces my total carry weight, because that's a thing they don't tell you about.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Carry weight's a thing.
Is that they never actually say that the carry weight is a thing at any point.
And that includes your equipped armor. And your run energy will deplete much faster and recharge even slower if you're carrying an entire inventory worth of stuff and wearing full plate. I think it goes from 0 to 64 kilograms in your inventory on a linear scale for how much it impacts your run speed recovery and your run speed drain.
What is it? Does it actually tell you your carry weight anyway?
This might be a mod I have installed, but it should, if you pull up next to the prayer icon, there's the armor icon, and then in that armor menu, there should be view equipment stats right underneath your armor.
Oh, yeah, there it is over there.
And it should be underneath all your equipped armor and view equipment stats.
43 kilos for a cape, a sword, and a shield. That's a heavy sword.
How much? How many kilos?
Yeah.
Oh, that includes your
43.
inventory. That includes your inventory.
Okay, well, I've got a whole bunch of cowhides, so that's probably it.
Yeah.
Oh, hides.
Yeah, cowhides are probably 2 or 3
each.
kilos a pop. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, beyond that, I'll probably disappear into a hole next week because Evil Genius comes out in a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting a bit hyped for that.
So you seem to have a bit more free time under your belt than I normally expect from you.
It comes and goes.
So you just
Yeah.
happen to be on a good stretch this week, or
Yeah, I've got
because you seem to be putting in a lot of time on Minecraft and Persona and that, whereas normally you just basically seem to spend all your free time either trying to sleep because you know you're going to be woken up and dragged off to work, or at work.
Yeah. So there's a bit of combination of all of the anime and such I watch, and at the moment because it's on the Switch, Persona, and that is I can just play it in bed. Is it good to do that? No, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
I see.
So yeah, just make time where you can.
Yeah, I've gotten very good at optimizing time, but even my time this week has just been gone.
Yeah.
So I've not been able to join y'all.
Speaking of animes, I did sit down and watch something I never thought I'd do, and that's watch
Mhm.
idle anime.
Which one?
Well,
Oh.
I think it's debatable whether or not you're going to
Debatable,
call it.
yeah,
an
it's
idle
Zombieland
anime.
Saga.
Oh, okay. I'm about to say you've been talking to Abo a lot more than I thought if he's already got you going on idols.
Yeah, I think going from Zombieland Saga to a proper idle anime is still a massive leap.
Incidentally, did Abo ever watch Xenoglossia?
I have no idea.
Because that is it's the first Idolmaster anime, I think, but it is so not Idolmaster that it almost beggars the imagination.
If it's tied to the Idolmaster franchise or the Love Live franchise, he probably watched it at some point.
I'm just sort of curious as to whether he had any thoughts on it, but he doesn't seem to divulge what he thinks about things directly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Zombieland is a lot of fun. I found it's got a good bit of heart to it, but the manager in that show is so ridiculously over the top. He could just basically carry the entire anime on his own. They at some point the main character Sakura tries to get answers as to why they're zombies, and the answer is basically, "Have you ever watched a zombie movie?" Yes. Well, there you go.
That's
it.
not really adequate as far as explanations go. I mean, that's just my opinion, of course.
So yeah, the guy is an absolute madman, and yeah, you can just watch him stand there and berate these zombie girls all day, and he's a lot of fun. But yeah, as far as an idol show goes, it is very, I think, light on what makes an idol show usually an idol show, which is gratuitous simping.
Well, it was still unbelievably popular, but it seemed to be more popular with the female audience.
Okay.
I don't know why. But that was just my observations from social media, which is becoming an even more distorted place each second that passes. So
Yes.
I'm not sure whether or not any revelations gleaned by that method have any significance in any context.
Yeah, probably not so much. Unless you want to know how evil the person next to you is, I guess. Let me see, what else? Watched the first Hero Arca episode last night, and it's kind of a nothing episode. Like
Do they have a new season going?
Yep, new season just dropped yesterday, actually.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, the first episode's a nothing episode, as usually is for a lot of these shows. Caught up on Slime, and oh boy, that got dark.
Yes, indeed.
Another thing I gotta watch.
Yeah.
It gradually lightens up after that, but it does does represent a sort of paradigm shift in Rimuru's attitudes in general, because you could view it as almost a certain type of sort of gentle deconstruction of isekai, in that he gets put in a position where everything is pretty much rosy for him for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
And he just wins and wins and wins and wins and wins. And while keeping him in his extremely powerful position, they managed to examine the fact that, you can't be everywhere at once, you can't win them all, and the world is not going to accommodate you just because you happen to be powerful enough to exert your will over the part of it that you can reach.
Yep. And yeah, that comes back and really bites him. So, yeah, definitely go watch that if you haven't. If you have enjoyed Slime in the past, I think it's done very well. Just watching Rimuru kind of make these realizations and start to cross lines he never thought he would cross.
My opinion, and I'm rereading the books at the moment to see how it lines up, because that's something I actually rather enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. Compared to how I remember it, because I'm not quite up to the same position yet in the books, they actually are soft pedaling it a little bit.
Yep.
The same big sort of moral event horizon sort of situation takes place, but I feel like they undersold just how badly psychologically damaged Rimuru was by what he saw.
Yeah.
By what happened. Like, because he basically blue screens for an extended period of time as far as the text is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he just doesn't know how to process it, because he's so a lot of it takes place as sort of his internal monologue between him and the reader, which you don't get much of in the anime, and the anime is actually better off for that on average, because there's a lot of his internal umming and ahhing about the mechanics of his skills that really nobody is interested in unless you're an extreme pedant for isekai mechanics.
I mean, that's exist.
Yeah, those people do exist. That's true.
Yeah, it seems
But
like
a
in
lo-
the anime, Great Sage kind of serves that purpose when it's
Oh,
when it's relevant.
he consults Great Sage. Great Sage will become even more of a character at this point.
Does she get
Um,
snarkier? Well, she's not
well,
Great Sage anymore. Spoilers, by the way.
the thing is that Great Sage eventually seems to start to become his own person, I guess.
Okay.
But neither Great Sage nor Rimuru are actually aware of it. Because they're completely symbiotic.
Yeah.
So they don't actually realize. Even the one who is gradually becoming his own person and gradually developing his own sort of opinions and attitudes and preferences in an explicit way doesn't realize that that's what's happening to him, because they don't have any existence apart from each other. So yeah, but it's sort of interesting seeing that happening. But Great Sage becomes more of a character in terms of they end up more sort of like an old married couple sort of relationship as time goes on, because they will, particularly in the direction from Great Sage to Rimuru, is that Great Sage will sometimes do things for Rimuru's own good that Rimuru doesn't necessarily appreciate at the time.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been a ride, and I've been really enjoying that. Like the whole power fantasy thing that the first season was fun, but it does have to end at some point, and it really has ended.
Yeah, but where we go from here basically is, that song in the Prince of Egypt animated movie, You're Playing with the Big Boys Now. Let's sort of cue that at this point.
Yeah.
Because now he's on the bottom of a different totem pole. Or not quite the bottom, because he's going to get his terrible revenge first.
Yeah, he's got to wreck some faces before he's right at that bottom of that pile.
It's not really any spoiler to say, since you should see it coming 1,000 miles off, but Clayman's about to get his.
Okay.
Now I have that stupid song from Prince of Egypt stuck in my head.
I mean, that's actually a pretty good movie.
I really like that movie. Nobody seems to remember it most of the time, but I think it's actually really good.
I used to watch it all the time as a kid.
Well, you're allowed to in the South.
I suppose that's true.
Yeah, it's not often that Disney does anything with a religious bent to it, but they actually did that one really well.
Well, it's kind of a minefield, but they managed to not end up falling into the idiotic pitfall that a lot of explicitly Christian media does, of being completely lacking in entertainment value. And they also don't fall into the pitfall of utterly attempting to secularize it, therefore losing any good that the story ever had.
Yeah.
I think the only change they made that's significant to biblical canon is they made Ramses Moses' brother in that one.
Was he?
Well, I mean, they were raised together in the palace, so they probably would have been treated in sort of a brotherly kind of way.
I suppose so.
Yeah,
He would have been like the young heir's sort of playmate.
Yeah.
Since they were children in the palace together.
So yeah, really good movie. Go watch it if you haven't. Let me think. Was there anything else during this week? Kept watching Spider, and something actually happened this week. So, yay!
Gasp.
Yeah, it was all. I don't feel like it had a lot of impact. I'm not sure why. It did have a Toho reference in it.
It did.
But
I actually watched the intro with the subtitles for the first time. They've actually got a Spider Pride joke in there, in that song. If you want a really old meme. But yeah, the intro is talking about Spider Pride.
But
I thought that was a Western-only joke.
I thought it was too, but I guess not.
The episode in general, like, they had built it up to be a big climax, but it didn't actually feel very climactic to me.
Yeah.
Possibly because it was not in format any different than any of the episodes that preceded it.
Mm-hmm. It's like, okay,
Because you
90%
can
of the episode is fighting, but
yeah, but the thing is that it's not different in any way. Like the only reason that you have to believe it's different is because the spider says that it is.
yeah,
It's different fighting this Earth dragon, you know, constantly on the edge of dying and trying to find a clever way to turn the situation around and win using limited spider abilities. That's exactly the same as the time that she fought the fire dragon and the monkeys and everything else. They're all the same episode, just over and over again.
I'm starting to wonder at this point if there's something lost in the translation between the original story and the anime.
I don't know. I really don't. I think it was originally a manga, but I haven't read it. But
Yeah.
It really does seem to me like it's the same episode, just over and over again with different visuals.
Yeah, so
And I mean, they've done a good job of illustrating this sort of like highly kinetic David and Goliath sort of fight. There's nothing to criticize on that count, except for the fact that every episode is just like that.
Yeah. Every now and again, you'll break through the humans for a bit of exposition, and then cut back to usually just spider fighting or spider trying not to die.
Or Spider having a Cribs episode in her house.
In her own head.
You see, the thing is that content is actually better than most of the series, because it's at least changing things up a bit, rather than here's the latest monster that she has to beat.
Yeah.
Like I'm still after this episode, I'm still in the mode of please just move it along already. Once she leaves the cave, maybe something will happen.
Maybe.
I wouldn't bet on it.
So yeah, that's what I'm thinking is there's something that's gone missing along the way.
Yeah, I don't know how it's laid out in the original content. Maybe it's easier to digest or paced differently or something.
Yeah. I stopped watching Small Town Boonies, by the way. It's just I can't honestly remember anything about it, really.
Yeah, it's gotten blander and blander over time. Like they didn't take the sensible option and turn everything up to 11. Instead, they just meandered along at its own pace and turned it into a really crappy version of a harem comedy.
Yeah. So it's all just
Which is something that really doesn't satisfy anyone. Like the other major harem fantasy story this season, like I'm not watching it because I was grossed out by how harem-y it was,
Yeah.
but at least that one, and I'm purposefully excluding the redo of Healer one because I don't really consider that fit for human consumption. But
nobody does.
Unless you watch Nick shows.
Huge quantities of anime fans do. Like it's the hottest ticket right now.
Yeah, but nobody actually agrees that it's something that anybody should watch.
No, they do. If you go to Nick Rekida's live stream right now, like at least once per show, there is a super chat that he has to read pimping Redo a Healer.
Oh no.
And he even pimped it to Ty Beard.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Don't. No.
Yeah. Oh, who else? He pimped it to Sargon. That's who he pimped it to. The one that I watched.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
The Sargon's not going to watch it. He doesn't have any interest in that. Sargon's been on a real Aristotelian Marcus Aurelius Stoic kick lately, so there's no way he's going to indulge in something so crass. But laying that one aside because it's generally repugnant. The other major harem series is at least it goes all in on being a fan service harem show, whereas the light harem show that is taking place in the Boonies anime is like, well, it doesn't satisfy the people who are there for the fan service. It doesn't satisfy the people who are there for the fantasy elements. It doesn't satisfy the people who are there for the comedy elements. Like it fails along every axis because it's trying to be more than one thing at once.
Yeah, it's got the beginnings of all of those things, but it doesn't commit to any of them.
Yeah, it needs to commit to them in a big way, and it would have been dull for them to just commit to and being another harem show at a time when there's already one salacious one and one grotesque one on the market.
I think
But
what this season, good as it is, I think this season was lacking a big hitting comedy.
yeah, and I think that they should have just gone full on
I think
for
they
the
should have gone
comedy.
full comedy.
Like
Yeah,
they should have told the opposite comedy to Konosuba,
yeah,
where the lead is actually accidentally hyper competent at everything and is just like as pure as the driven snow, and the rest of the world sort of balks at how pure he is, as opposed to the opposite where you've got Kazuma.
who is
Kazuma.
he's Kazuma. So
Yeah.
incidentally, Spider is also Katakawa. So I think has Katakawa just gone full Spurglord on isekais entirely now?
It's the way you make money at the moment. That's just how it is.
That would be a yes then. So, yeah. Anyway, that'll be my week. What have you been up to?
It's been one of those rough weeks at work, rougher than average, because like last week, they decided that I needed to come in early every day for training, which basically meant me being lectured on the ins and outs of the laboratory's information management system, which is the dullest topic known to man. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, unlike many of the other topics, this is actually an intensely pragmatic and useful thing for me to know, since I'm handling the thing day in, day out. And there are a lot of tricks and traps that I didn't know about until I had this training session. So it wasn't a loss. However, it was a loss of sleep. And sleep is something that doesn't come very easily to me. So I don't really appreciate having to get out of bed early and then coming home in a state of borderline crash.
Yeah.
But
I mean, at least they're
you
not
can't have everything
sitting
you
you
want.
down and watching really bad VHS training videos that are 20 years out of date when they were made.
Like on Cells at Work.
Like it sells at work.
Back when the stomach was a happy place.
If we ever recover enough to hire people again at my job, I have some old Polaris training VHS tapes sitting in the storage cupboard. None of the products in there.
You have a VHS player?
Yeah.
Those tapes are probably demagnetized by now.
The trouble that I always had was that they would go moldy.
Yeah.
That they would physically grow mold.
Yeah, they've been sitting inside their cardboard casing that doesn't even have a closed front.
Yep.
Inside of the storage closet forever. If I put that thing in a VCR, assuming it even accepts the tape, it's just going to disintegrate when it tries to spin it.
Yeah. Although I do admit I do have a soft spot for some of those old training videos, because usually they're so appallingly awful. You've just got to sit back and laugh at them.
We have to make the modern day equivalent as part of our job.
Oh no.
So there is what we have to do called startups, where whenever you go do work for a big corporation or a big public function thing, publicly funded something like a hospital, they need documentation on hand to show anybody in case of emergency and something starts breaking and they don't know what's going on with the product or how to use it. Like if the guy that normally knows how to use it isn't there because of some dumb regulation somebody cooked up. So, and unfortunately, we can't really charge people for this because it's already an obnoxious thing for everybody to do. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't technically cost us material money, just time. And we have to go sit there in front of a video camera and point at all the things on the screen and show us working it and how to turn it on, how to turn it off, how to check the status. If it has nowadays we have PLC panels, so how to log in, what the password is, how many RPMs this thing should be running, what issues you might come up with, might arise that are just normal things.
Well, you just make it billable.
Yeah.
So you include it in the price. You give them a printed manual, and then you hold Zoom sessions or whatever, explaining it to the people who are going to use it in time and amount that is billed.
Yeah, we wish we could do that, but unfortunately, no other company charges for it. So if we start charging for it, even if we make something else cheaper to compensate, or just rolled it into the cost of something else, we wouldn't be able to compete.
Yeah, a lot of companies actually do roll it in the cost. They just don't tell anyone.
I thought you people had like anti-poaching thing going on.
We're supposed to, but the problem comes in when it's a job that's spec'd for multiple systems and not just our suppliers. Then we don't
Right.
have any territory claim if we're competing against other potential manufacturers. No, we can only claim territory on jobs that are in our territory,
I see.
and also within our manufacturer's rep status.
Anyway, what was I talking about? I can't remember. So while we're on the anime thing, I'll see if there's anything that I needed to talk about there. I don't think there really was, though. The only comment I have, I suppose, Jujutsu Kaisen looks like it's at the end of its run. Overall, I felt like it matured relatively well into a competent shonen. It was sort of like a bit messy and a bit derivative to start off with, and it ended in it being a little bit messy and a little bit derivative, but a lot more stable. Like
Okay.
I think its biggest flaw is probably that they just don't spend enough time organically getting acclimated to the characters. Like I don't have a terribly solid feel for the characters. Like I feel like they get sent into the field too much. Like there's the most shonens have quite a bit of faff in between individual sort of like big fights, and that faff is to give you time to get used to the characters. But there's not really a huge amount of that in Jujutsu Kaisen. Mostly they're just falling from big fight to big fight, constantly getting in over their heads, and somehow managing to have the power to pull it off. Except for the one Jujutsu Kaisen episode where they play baseball, because of course
What?
there always has to be a baseball episode.
Of course it does.
But yeah, mostly I feel like they rush along a little bit too much, and it's a little bit too fast paced in some ways. But I think it's a mild criticism considering the bar isn't terribly high for shonen. But I feel like their power development is also too fast, because by the end of episode 24, they've been on like 3 or 4 major combat arcs, and they're at the point where they're already sort of in the elite tier at that stage, because they're all just so talented or whatever. And they have at least 2 of the 3 main characters, because it's a 2 guys and a girl 3-man cell as usual,
Mm-hmm.
involving, a brooding dark hero type, a loud obnoxious idiot type, and the girl who's trying to keep them both in line but ends up looking a little bit useless a lot of the time. Is this sounding familiar?
Yeah.
You're gonna have that. I can think of so many generic things that fits.
Yeah, but they're doing that again. But I
But
feel
now that
like
you mentioned it, I can't think of anything modern that's really done that, unless I'm just brain farting on it. Because it's been around so long, I've seen it in so much stuff, I just kind of don't notice it anymore.
regardless, I feel like they got accelerated up the power curve and have been sort of. It's not that they've just declared them to be powerful by fiat without demonstrating it. They have demonstrated it, but it's almost like every single character is riding on intrinsic talent. But intrinsic talent being better than training is a big theme in this show. Like, it's actually an almost refreshing sort of inversion. While they still do their training arcs are more about bringing out things that they already had and were repressing because of whatever dysfunction they have, rather than them training their way into more power. And it seems to be sort of be a theme that that you're more or less, you're born with a certain amount of talent and you've got to try and work with that in the most cunning and effective way you can, because some people just have a crappy lot in life and you've got to work with that. You can't just use guts to get through everything.
Mm-hmm.
Which is sort of an inversion of what you normally expect from a shonen. But Yeah, I feel like overall it came out quite competently, and some of the later fight scenes are actually really well constructed and really fun to watch. They've clearly dumped most of their money into their soundtrack though, although there's some really nice animated parts as well. So if you just like shonen in general and are willing to just watch through 24 episodes of shonen just cause, I think it's reasonably watchable, and it is actually quite popular at the moment. It's doing quite well. I think that's probably because at this point, Black Clover's really starting to drag for most people.
Black Clover
so they're
should be
looking for-
starting to wind down anyway.
Black Clover was slated for 170 episodes,
Yeesh.
and depending on how successful those episodes are will determine whether it continues to go on. I don't know what number they're up to at the moment. They're up to 169 at the moment.
Oh, there you go.
Goodness, has it really been that many weeks?
Yeah.
I feel so old.
That's not to think about it.
169 episodes. There's 3 years of watching Black Clover.
Yeah.
We've been watching it for 3 years.
I haven't even been watching it, and I still think that show just came out yesterday.
Anyway, yeah, so that's the thing. What else do I have? I will comment briefly on Uma Musume, just because.
Oh no.
It's got issues.
It's got
Like,
shoes.
it's got issues, and they are insurmountable issues, in my opinion.
Oh no.
And they are based on the core concept and its major weaknesses. And the core concept, like in case anybody has been fortunate enough to miss it, Uma Musume is sort of like the latest gacha. Now it's the latest gacha because it finally came out, where it's about horse girls.
Oh,
All
right.
the girls are all reincarnations of racehorses. Okay, so that's the short version. The major problem with this is that there is exactly one major type of drama in horse racing, and that's injuries.
Yes.
And it's not like in shonen where when you get injured, you can recover in a beat episode because they're horses.
Yeah.
So basically, it's just an anime which follows the same arc structure over and over and over and over, and that's where, you know, a young teenage girl full of hopes and dreams will suffer a career-ending injury and become depressed. And depending on whether that racehorse was able to be rehabilitated or not, they'll either have to retire from the plot or they will recover until they have their next injury, at which point they will repeat the cycle and recover or not
So
until their next injury. And so there's sort of like a cap apparently in universe of, if you break your leg for the third time, you basically have to give up on doing anything ever again. So
I mean,
or if you develop particular ligament dysfunctions, then there's no treatment available, and that's it.
I mean, horses heal rather slowly, and especially
Everything
injuries to the
except
legs.
for humans heal slowly.
Yeah,
Humans are the only animal in the animal kingdom that heals so ridiculously fast.
that's not some sort of lizard.
Yeah, well, either if you don't have the capacity to actually regenerate parts of your body, and healing is your cap, humans have it the best.
Yes. So, especially for an injury to a horse's legs, an injury to a horse's leg may never heal.
Yeah, it's not uncommon at all for them not to heal. Now the thing is that this just doesn't resonate when you template it onto teenage girls.
You can't euthanize waifus.
Yeah, about to say, do we get the shotgun out?
No, you can't euthanize waifus. So after like and because this is the only type of drama that horse racing really has, like there's two types of drama in the show: the horse racing one and the anime one. And the anime one is rivalry, and the horse racing one is injury.
Yes.
And so you only have these two types of arcs. Period. End. And the only thing that they can do in the show is just repeat them over and over again. And the third time a horse girl breaks their leg, it's starting to sound a little bit samey, and it's starting to, you know, strain credulity, because even human championship runners who shatter their leg for the third time don't continue that line of profession.
No, usually
It's
by the time their third one comes around, that leg is not in a fit state to compete at that level. It just
you
doesn't
get
happen.
some latitude because these are not horses; they are horse girls, so they have attributes of humans, including healing capacity. But it doesn't get around the fact that those are the only plot lines they've got. They
Yep.
need to either use a lot more imagination or stop trying to write an anime, basically,
Yeah.
because it's just not credible. The first season was a lot more stable because it was about the introduction of this setting. So you've got Special Week, because horses always have stupid names.
Yes.
It's basically she's starting out her career, and so she's got to learn about how they do things, about training for races, about proper diet, about this, that, and the other. Get to know her teammates, find someone to look up to, find someone to compete with, sort of find their place in the world, and then win a championship or whatever. Like that's a natural, stable narrative arc. So the first season works all right. The second season takes Tokai Teo, who's already a well-established prize-winning horse, and basically matches her up in a rivalry with another one of her teammates. What's her name? I can't remember. McQueen or something. And then they have a rivalry, they have an injury, they have a rivalry, they have an injury, they have a rivalry, they have an injury, and it just oscillates constantly all season. So it's really not very good. Like narratively, it's just repetitive, very repetitive.
How many waifus have lost races repetitively and got sold off to a suburban family?
I have not seen very many. Well, I mean, the thing is that you don't make it into the show if you aren't a championship racehorse with a reputation for it.
Uh-huh.
Because they're all based on real racehorses, and nobody remembers the name of a racehorse who never wins anything.
Yeah, because those horses usually end up getting retired really quick.
Well, the fate of the ones that win isn't much better. They get dumped into somebody's barn to become bred.
Yeah, basically they become breeding stock.
There's a lot that I don't want to know about how you might do a spin-off of that, considering these are all waifus.
I mean, interspecies reviewers?
Yeah, let's not.
Let's not.
Let's just not do that. Let's just not go down that road.
Let us not, please.
Yeah, so absolutely can't recommend that. The first season is watchable if you like, horse girls for some reason.
But even that
And
premise
maybe
was dumb.
I got news for you guys. There are no horse girls in real life.
Yeah.
You might want to find a different kink.
At least they're not.
Somewhere, some furry is disappointed.
At least they don't reach the level of furry because they just have like ears.
Oh, so these aren't like centaur girls?
No.
That would actually be funnier, I think.
Okay, because the way you were describing this, I was thinking these girls were like centaurs.
No, if I am talking in the context of anime, they're always just going to be, anthropomorphized. So they've got ears and a tail.
And that's it.
I think that every member of the cast I can think of only has 2 ears.
Hang on, what?
Well,
because they have ears on the top of their heads, right?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But they're all human.
The eternal mystery of animal girls having the ears.
Yeah.
But they all got long hair. So you never know.
Yeah, Fubuki just explains it as though she can hear twice as good, because you can clearly see her human ears and her fox ears.
Makes sense to me. But
It doesn't
yeah.
make sense in the slightest.
It makes as much sense as it needs to.
That is none. Right.
It's cute.
There you
But
go.
yeah. So that's the thing. Most of my free time this week has been spent doing the Tokugawa Restoration Labyrinth event in FGO. Otherwise known as Kama making you go through lots and lots of loading screens. Because she's a brat.
Yeah, I don't. The little bit I played of this, Kama is unsettling me, and I'm really upset at what happened earlier today because, holy crap, her dialogue so far. And
I don't know
on-
particularly what you're referring to.
her
but-
first introduction scene where she shows up, she's just the lewdest 12-year-old you can imagine.
And now we're arrested. Excellent.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is that she changes her appearance based on your preferences, Aristeal. As the god of love, that's her
What now?
provenance.
Oh
I
dear.
think this is a clear character disconnect between me and my protagonist then.
I mean, we've seen Gudiko's preferences.
I suppose, well, Gudiko's preference is any female within sight.
Yes. Gudeo is Astolfo.
Well, or red hair, depending on which continuity you're looking at.
Yes, or possibly the prison warden, because that's where he belongs.
But at any rate, the event is interesting. They've taken a different tack to usual, and more or less for any story mission, you're constrained to using 2 of your own servants plus a support.
This made me so mad when I realized the free quests didn't follow this format, because I was thinking maybe, just maybe, because we can't cram a back row full of support CEs.
Maybe you won't use the same freaking event and the same freaking composition over and over again.
And maybe we won't have to grind as hard if we don't go ham on the banner.
No, don't be silly. This is a major event. This is like a major tier event. This is not a minor tier event. They can brutalize you. At least you have your luck, so you got everything that you wanted and then some.
Yeah, I didn't get the 4-star CE, but I'll live without it.
Yeah, I didn't get any. I didn't get any Cs. I did get Karma somehow. I decided I don't care about getting Karma, obviously, because
No, that's
otherwise I
why
wouldn't
then.
have gotten it. Yeah, I decided I didn't care about getting Karma, but I wanted some CEs. So obviously I got no CEs and I got Karma.
Yeah.
I threw 10 tickets at it. So unlike Aristeal, I didn't get 3 copies, which is what you get if you throw 13 tickets or equivalent. Which is what
Yeah,
Ari did.
I threw 3 tickets and got comma, and then I'll just pull the picture out of what happened in the 10 pull.
I was actually contemplating that maybe God put you on this earth to try me and teach me not to be envious of people. I spent quite a while thinking about this.
Okay, it's posting.
But yeah, I'm not particularly a fan of Karma, either in terms of character or in terms of her functionality. She's just another Sakura face to me, although the white-haired variety of girl is always preferable to me compared with the purple one. But
Well, white, you can write it off as if they're older, it's a natural hair color. Their hair can start graying early, or it can be a really, really, really platinum blonde.
but purple means they have worms.
Yeah. Also, I posted that picture in Show. I posted it in Show House.
Yeah, that's not helpful to anybody.
I'll post it in live show chat. Whoops.
But yeah, so I didn't get any Cs, and I decided, okay, maybe I can try the friend gacha, and I spent 300,000 points in the friend gacha. 300,000, and I didn't get any Cs there either.
Oh,
I got another copy of Angry Mango, not that I wanted one, but it's really time consuming using that gacha because you've got to clear your inventory all the time. It's a freaking nightmare, especially if you're as pedantic about EXP bomb construction as I am. But oh well, doesn't matter. I'm not that fussed about getting lots and lots of things in the event shop. I just want to get the necessary things because I play pretty much every event. Unlike Aristeal, I'm not like painfully short of anything that isn't bones and QP.
Yeah,
Neither of which you can get in this event shop. So
I wish that the retroactive rewards stuff that came in would have happened right before I leveled Scotty instead of right afterwards, because then I wouldn't have had to do the Void Cocaine farm.
don't worry, the soap farm will always be there for you.
Oh my goodness! But
If I never see the Aurora Steel farming stage ever again, it will still be too soon.
Yeah,
But I'm pretty sure I'm still lacking Aurora Steel for a lot of my servants. At any rate, this is one of those events which gives you bonuses to various characters, and in this case, it's a damage bonus of varying degree for all Japanese characters excluding summer characters. guess they wanted to maintain a certain degree of gravitas rather than have half the cast running around in swimsuits. But at any rate, that's the way it goes. But that basically means that I have used Kiyohime in virtually every stage as a one-size-fits-all solution to everything. And so far, I have found very few problems that were not immediately solved by Kiyohime, please set everybody on fire.
Well, most of the fights, at least for the story mode, are walking through the corridors are just one wave, 3 enemies at the start. I don't know if that changes.
It does change. In fact, that probably accounts for about 30% of the fights. But even the fights that are not like that are still solved by Kiyohime, please set everyone on fire. Several of the boss fights I have solved by saying Kiyohime, please set everyone on fire. And it seems to work most of the time. It does have a difficulty curve, but the difficulty curve is very gentle for the most part. The average HP that things have will scale up gently over the course of the five first stages. I've done all 5 now, apart from the parts that are locked still, because apparently others open up later. Other pathways with additional bonuses open up later in the event. But I've done the first 5 stages, and I think that there's a boss stage at the bottom. Don't know what's down there. Don't know how much I'm going to tear my hair out trying to do it. Don't know exactly how the mechanic will work. Don't know exactly how the gauge down the side of the screen applies to anything, other than the fact that it's starting to get perilously full for me. There is a way to pass through and keep it empty, or very close to empty, because only certain pathways which involve breaking the precepts involved in each of the dungeons, without spoiling it, you should be able to discern pretty quickly that they leave all of the parts of what's going on out for you to find. But there are certain paths that you can favor based on inspecting the names of the pathways in the rooms and the text that appears when you choose them. There are various pathways that you can follow that will charge the gauge less than others.
But that is not at all the natural gamer inclination when you're playing this.
The natural gamer inclination is to stick your nose in every crevice.
Is to go the wrong way on purpose.
Even when something attempts to bite it off. But you're going to charge most of the gauge if you do everything that way. If you are free with your use of the Mystic Code, then you're going to charge it even more. Apparently, it's got something to do with how powerful the final boss is, how powerful Kama is at the very end when you fight her as the final antagonist.
According to the guide, I
haven't read the guide, so I don't know.
I haven't read any mechanics in the guide, but it just says she is harder than Kiara was with no debuffs on her from the Seraph event. If you charge that gauge to 100%.
Yeah, apparently you can use items to lower the gauge as well. I haven't got my gauge all the way to 100% because I've used the Mystic Code exactly once. And the reason I used it one time was because I was in a boss fight and I forgot to change the CE, and it ended up being Tamamo fights the boss solo. Tamamo is not an ideal DPS servant, in case you don't know.
She's got this, husband.
She does have a damage bonus in this event due to being a Japanese servant, but it's only 30%. And yeah, it was not the easiest and definitely not the shortest fight I've ever done, but she needed a bit of support from the old Mystic Code. So I did use it once. The other thing I haven't used is the CEs which increase your damage output straight up. And if you're going to just barge through, then that's probably the optimal way to go, is to use those. But I haven't used them at all. And there's not really a good reason for that, other than the fact that I like using Noble Phantasms and it doesn't have Noble Phantasm pre-charge on it. So
it does not help with the fire part of the Kiyohime solution.
No, I want more fire and I want it now. Don't want it later, I want it now. Plus it doesn't enhance Buster at all. I think it's an Arts Quick CE. But I'm sure I will end up being forced to use that when I try and take on the boss, and we'll need to come up with a more enduring strategy than to have a 3-star Berserker set everything on fire. I'm sure it will be the event will probably be a walkover for Ari, even with no bonuses. You can probably just scuddy Dante's every single stage with minimal difficulty. and that's not likely to change because of the flexibility of that comp. But
well, you don't even need to go that hard on it. If you have a just reasonably hard hitting one turn Noble Phantasm that can do and keep up with escalating health of the mobs that you encounter, you can just use that to blow the hallways up.
There are a number of stages. In fact, there are a lot of stages which will have a single stage, but there'll be 5 or 6 mobs.
Yeah, I've encountered a lot of ones with 5 with those marionettes. They seem to come in packs of 5, but only one wave.
That is often the case, though you'll see other ones like that as well. But generally speaking, those are all story missions, and story missions are always really easy. They have attempted to, other than like perfect Scuddy Dante's setups like Ari has, which is things that you can only get if you have Ari level luck. Most people don't have setups quite that ideal unless they have been rolling based on meta rather than based on waifu.
Most people don't have that luck rolling based on waifu. Or husbando, I guess, with Dante's case.
But other than people with perfect setups, they have purposefully seemed to have disabled a lot of those builds in the farmable quests by having like waves with 2 mobs or whatever, so you can't get enough Noble Phantasm charge to push you over the limit for the next one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that sort of thing, and I sort of appreciate the fact that they haven't structured it so you must use the meta breaking comp at all times. But
it hits double hard because a lot of the mobs in here are assassins. So and assassins give less MP gain in overcharge, it seems like, or just in general. I'm not sure why.
It's because the amount of NP you get depends on the class you hit.
Okay.
And it also depends on their alignment. Earth, Sky, Star.
Okay, yeah.
It affects it as well. But the worst is usually Berserkers.
Yeah, Berserkers and Assassins.
You get to the over. It's because with Berserkers you're going to get to the overkill level very quickly compared to other classes. So they've nerfed the amount of Noble Phantasm you get off them through the floor. But yeah, at any rate, it's a sort of an interesting event where you sort of navigate your way through a labyrinth using lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of loading screens, where every stage will take you a little bit further through the labyrinth. Most of them don't have fights, and nearly all of them that don't have a fight cost 1 AP. So you can play for quite a length of time without emptying your entering your AP bar. This is 100% one of those events where your limitation, particularly early on, is going to be how much real life time do you have to throw down this black hole, because it takes a long time to go through all those loading screens. I would have gone completely bonkers if I hadn't replaced my phone a couple years ago.
It's also one of the events they recommend being sure you watch the story for, because it's apparently a real important one.
Yeah, well, it's one of the Beasts of Humanity storylines, that's like major players.
Yeah, so
it has in fact influenced the way the Beasts of Humanity have in fact influenced the way that Nasu is writing the Tsukihime rewrite. So simply because the 2 worlds are bifurcated, right? You are either in the Tsukihime world or the Fate world. Like the Tsukihime world is isolated from all the Fate worlds, and the biggest distinction is the power level of servants relative to the power level of dead apostles. And basically the power level of Beasts of Humanity has ballooned to the extent that most of the original Dead Apostle ancestors are kind of crap now. So Nasu's had to rewrite all of them and just completely purge the roster and rebuild it.
I see. Yeah, I mean, there's like Ort and Blackmore might be able to compete with him, but he's
Blackmore's barely more than a regular Magus. Like he wouldn't make the cut. I'd say the only ones that can make the cut are Ort. The Forests can make the cut still. Primate Murder can make the cut. Ultrarouge can make the cut, and basically nobody else. Everybody else is on the tier of an extremely powerful normal Magus.
I don't know how strong the monsters Solomon can summon are, so I don't know where.
Yeah, but all you have to do is stop him from summoning them, and he loses. That's true of Shakespeare. If you don't let Shakespeare use his Noble Phantasm, then he's powerless basically. So that's it's not good enough for the 27 Dead Apostle ancestors. They've got to have some gimmick that really blows people out of the water. Like the Tartari is sort of debatable because it's dependent on other people whether that still makes the cut, but it's interesting and gimmicky enough that it might make the cut if he's considered to be alive in that continuity at this point. I don't even know how that works anymore.
Yeah, I'm not sure how his existence fares at the end after the end of Melty Blood. It's implied he got totally dissolved in Actress again, and that the only reason the event can occur now is because a future version of Scion time travels back in time as Dust of Osiris and has completely subsumed the Trismegistus system into some symbiotic automaton that she rides on top of.
At any rate, most of the original Dead Apostle ancestors are of the sort of level of power of Nero Chaos or Roa, and they're small potatoes. Like a low tier servant could wax them. So they've had to Nasu's had to rewrite that entire roster of characters because things like Kama and Kiara have become the norm over on the Fate side, and they, in terms of sort of scope and power, blow away the characters, the vast majority of the characters on the Tsukahime side by such a spectacular margin of sort of like, they are world-ending, humanity-ending catastrophes that basically the DAAs need to up their game. So, yeah. At any rate, Kama's sort of an odd antagonist in practice. She acts all the time like she doesn't care about anything that you do, and still somehow manages to come across as annoying and bratty, and I want to slap her. But I suppose the thing that she fails the worst at is being in any way seductive, which seems to be sort of a bit ironic considering her job and what she claims she's attempting to do. And the more you find out about her scheme, the more harebrained it ends up seeming. But the more dishonest she seems to be, the more honest she claims she's being. Like, she's a very awkward, difficult character to get a handle on what her actual motivations are. And it seems mostly that she's a bitter child for the most part. And even when she's not looking like a child, she still comes off like a bitter child. I mean, she was fortunate enough to inherit all of the worst parts of Sakura's life experience. So I suppose to some extent she can be forgiven for that. But yeah, she sort of just acts kind of stroppy most of the time. The way a teenager who doesn't want to do what their dad tells them acts.
I see.
She doesn't come off as very mature at all, but she's definitely powerful and twisted. But yeah, going through 5 tiers of her dungeon with Kiara's running commentary as she attempts to keep up her image as a holy nun has been very interesting.
Something about that Kiara doesn't seem right. I don't know yet, but it doesn't. She feels off, even for alter ego Kiara that we summoned. There's just something off about her.
I don't think that she's done anything or said anything so far that's outside the scope of Kiara's many personalities. Because you've got to remember that Kiara from the Moon Cell in the Fate universe that we're currently occupying in Grand Order had multiple other Kiaras uploaded into her. So she can assume whichever posture she thinks is suitable. Because Kiara the Saint and Kiara the Beast are both part of her. So, yeah. She's a difficult one as well. But you can tell that those two just rub each other the wrong way, something vicious, but neither of them knows why. And every encounter comes out like that. Like, anytime Kiara interjects during one of Kama's monologues, rather than acting apathetic about it, she snaps at her every time. So, yeah, it's interesting seeing that into play as well. I haven't got to the end of the story yet, though, so I don't know where it goes, but it might be anticlimactic or it might be a cool finish, who knows. All I know is it seems to have precipitated an excess of who is the sassy lost child memes for some reason, which seems to be a meme from One Punch Man, but I haven't seen it, so yeah, I don't know. At any rate, Kama, after her debut, rapidly became the butt of a large number of different jokes
involving the FBI.
Most of them not involving the FBI. Most of them involving not treating her as an object of lust at all, but rather treating her as a legitimate, stroppy, bad-tempered little child who needs to be disciplined as a child would because she has a bad temper and can't get things her way and throws a tantrum all the time. Like that's her position in the fandom is not exactly do not lewd because of who she is, but is definitely treat her like an actual child, not a lolly. So, been a bit of a strange phenomenon to be a witness to. Regardless, I would say on balance, I'm enjoying the event, although it can be frustrating, and I bet Fu is getting very tired of running across the bottom of the screen all the time. He's always running there, ever running, can't ever stop running, because every time I click on something, Fu has to run a little bit more.
I'm glad I got an iPad to play this on, because I was getting tired of the load screens already, but I have an iPad Pro, so it should be able to load them faster than you. You doing it on a phone, man, that's gonna...
Oh, that's okay.
It's just short enough that it doesn't make me frustrated on my current phone. On my old phone, I would have thrown my phone out the window by now. But
give it a couple of months, they'll fix that.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of loading screens. There's a lot of loading screens. Like, it's my biggest criticism of this event is there has to have been a better way to code it than the one that they used. Because it's clearly we chose to code it this way and it's a hot mess. So, yeah. At any rate, it's a fun event. I'm more or less enjoying it. Gordolf has managed to make a total clown of himself as usual and continues to do so. And Karma's a brat. She acts bratty. Everything she wants to do seems to be bratty. Every time she tries to intimate like she's got some grand plan, she just ends up seeming bratty. Oh well. You can't win them all. Apparently the final boss already has lots of people tearing their hair out, so not sure I'm looking forward to that. I think I'll just nerf her as much as the game will allow and then beat the crap out of her, because that's her proper place in the world. Unfortunately, my best tool to use against Karma is Setonai. And Setonai is really... That's playing Russian roulette right there. Every time I've had to fight Karma... Every time I had to fight a Karma with more than, say, 100,000 hit points, because you have to fight a lot of Karma. A lot of Karma. Every time I fight a tough version of her, Setonai becomes my weapon of choice, because she's got probably the best output versus Noble Phantasm Recharge for me to use in a 3-man comp. The problem is that it's Russian roulette, because at any point, at any time, Karma might decide to use the ability which will invert her weakness to alter ego into a strength versus alter ego.
Oh, is it only for alter egos or for all her classes?
Only alter egos. Only alter egos. She's a specific alter ego killer. She's the only one in the game, even in Japan, that is calibrated to kill alter egos. But she goes to weak versus to strong versus, and that applies on attack and defense for her.
I see.
So my DPS servant randomly oscillates between totally ineffectual and devastating, depending on how Karma feels at any point in time. So, yeah, it's been a situation where I'll try and come out of the gate with guns blazing before she gets a turn, and then after that, it's can my supports keep Setonai alive until she can get another hit in at full power. But, yeah, at any rate, I'm enjoying it. It's good. I managed to pull another 5-star. I didn't manage to pull 3 of them because I'm not Aristeel, but one that you didn't expect is better than none that you hoped to get one for, I guess. But
it's because you weren't hunting for her is why you got her.
Yeah, I know. I've gotten ones that I've hunted for in the past, but it's always after a long and arduous process.
Or I help you.
Yeah, there's also that. Yeah. Still hoarding my quartz, not going to spend it. How much do I have now? Incidentally, this event drops 45 quartz in total from what I hear, which is a pretty hefty chunk.
Yeah.
So you really don't want to miss it if you're saving for anything.
Just going down all the corridors, when I looked at the total amount you get like 10 of every single gold item in the game. You get a ton of silver items, a ton of bronze tier items. Like it's a ton.
Yeah.
And it said the numbers were undercalculated by accident in the K-Scopia event guide I was using.
I see.
because they forgot to add a few in there.
I've hoarded about a little over 420 quartz so far since my last big blowout. I hope that the next banner will be nicer to me. I don't have a lot of hope. I do have some, but not very much, because I just, pissed away all my good luck getting that brat Karma. Anyway, I guess it would be churlish of me to complain about that, since Karma was one of the big banners people were hoping for this year. We're waiting to roll on. There are two really big banners this year that people are absolutely, bonkers amped for. And Karma is the first of them. The second of them is Space Ishtar. Space Ishtar. Well, I suppose you could count King Arjuna as well, Berserker Arjuna, but he's more of a meta role for most people.
And he's a meaty boy.
He is husbando for a lot of people. There are quite a few banners that people are amped for, but I think the big ones are Space Ishtar because it's a run face and she's simultaneously extremely good as a farmer, and Karma because she's a sacrifice and she's also probably on balance the single most powerful assassin servant in the game, plus the only counterplay for alter egos, whereas Arjuna just kills everything. So, I mean, that's a fine strategy, but it's not exactly an imaginative one. Whereas Ishtar's got like novelties, like she can change the card type of her Noble Phantasm to any type she wants and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
That sounds broken.
Anyway, I'll leave it there. It is broken. She is the best farmer in the game for a reason.
Yeah. So we should take a break.
All right. Here's some music, folks. We will be right back. And we're back. And if you heard clicking, that was me. I was playing with the magnetic lid on one of my containers.
Aha.
So, Fern, you gotta tell me. Just point that out when you hear that.
Anyway.
But
yeah.
So we were at the end of All's week.
Yeah. I'm at the end of my week.
All right. So this week has been a nightmare for me. I hate the government. I really, really, truly hate the government.
So what else is new?
Just every time it seems like I gotta do stuff for the government. Either I gotta jump through licensing fee hoops, or I gotta go get stuff registered, or I gotta do taxes of one flavor or another. It just never ends with the government. I just want to run my business. Just go away, government. But yeah, so as I mentioned before, our CPA died. So we didn't have a CPA when it was already a little late to file taxes. I filed an extension already. So we had to find a new CPA office. And we got one finally. I got quite the downgrade. Went from a nice lady named Candace who would help me fudge the rules a little bit. She would let me do stuff like just let her log in to our dang QuickBooks account and have her reconcile our books and stuff and skip a lot of the obnoxious steps for me, as long as I labeled everything correctly and marked what every single money movement was.
Mm-hmm.
New guy Bob, who is a significant downgrade from Candace, is not nearly as flippant with the rules.
Oh, no.
So now I got to figure out a whole bunch of stuff that I just took for granted that Candace did for me. So, like how to actually formally reconcile the books and report them. Like, why? Why does the government need this information?
Does that mean you got to sit down and manually go through all your statements?
Yes, but I have to do that anyway. This is just making sure they go into the right account and get locked into that account forever in whatever our auditing software is. It would have been a locked file cabinet if it was real life back before the internet. And they would be kept together as that year's reconciled books.
Yes.
And you have to do this in case you get audited.
Yep. That's very standard.
Yeah, it's just a pain in the rear end, every bit of this whole tax thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just hate it. So yeah, I've been spending a bunch of my week messing with that. We've had a lot of jobs that have finally started to break. I've been able to actually write an order to the factory for stuff. That's been very nice. I've been very happy about that. We won't see the money until it ships a month and a half later, and then they take up to a month to pay us because they have 30 days to pay it. But it's on the way instead of just being in limbo land with a quote out, which is what most of our stuff is.
It's something at least.
So jobs are actually moving. Money will be coming in. That puts us on a forward trajectory instead of a potentially neutral trajectory. But all of this means I have work to do. And when you're dealing with the government, nothing is fast. And everything is time consuming.
Unless it's on your end. Then they want you to go in 1 minute.
Yeah, if the government wants something, they want it right now. But if you need to get something from the government, I hope you got a free week. And this includes any government-needed documentation owned by things like your bank.
Yeah.
Like, getting them to produce the W-3s for your company when you use them as your payroll service, it took them days to get me every form I needed. And I spent most of my time on the phone with the bank. They apparently have a whole department for handling these kind of requests, because I kept getting connected to different operators. But that doesn't change the fact that it takes them forever to pull them and send them. Or to even understand what I'm asking for, because they sent me the wrong documents one time. I mean, I don't know how to put it better to them. This account number, the W-3s for the company and all employees, and all W-2 records for the year as well. That isn't hard. I've already sent the W-2s out. No, I don't need to resend them. They don't need to be revised. I just need to send the copies to my CPA. So anyway, this consumed all of my week. And I had a horrible sinus infection on top of everything else. So I would go to work. I would work my butt off. I would be completely brain drained. And I would come home and I would go to sleep.
I love those weeks.
Yeah, it was bad all week. So that's why nobody saw me this week. So as far as video gaming goes, I didn't do very much. I did even less of the Tokugawa thing than Vault did. I'm still only halfway through the first floor, and I did all that today. I guess I can talk about. I played a little bit of OSRS, but I'm not playing this game. I paid for a membership in it because this game's nigh unplayable if you play it for more than a day. If you play it free to play, because the recharge rate for your run energy, which is how you run and actually move in this game, is tied to the agility stat, and you cannot level up the agility stat as a free to play player.
And the recharge rate by default is complete butts.
It's 1 per 8 seconds if you have no weight on you.
Yeah.
Good grief. That's malevolent, that is.
Yeah. So running makes you move like 1.5 to 2 times as fast. So it's like making you crawl.
It is butts.
Also, you don't have access to nearly as many teleport items, and you're confined to that one continent area. And all the good level up quests are members only.
All the fun quests.
So rather quickly, I realized, okay, it's OSRS, but I seem to recall using a mod package for this game. And so I did some thinking about it, and I did some digging. And the mod package still exists, and it's called RuneLite. And while you can see what Fern is doing on his screen, if I sent it to him so I could copy it later. Where is it?
It should be in Discord there somewhere.
Yeah. So if I pull this up and go to live show chat, I can show you what my RuneScape looks like, which is quite a bit different. I have this full modded interface that shows me item drops, the time until it despawns. It shows me how much stuff will go on the auction house. That's what the stuff in parentheses means next to it. I can set that to be the high alchemy value, which is using a high level magic spell at magic level 55 to just turn an item into gold. So, which is the way you vendor stuff at high level. Because you don't want to walk all the way back to town. Your inventory is stuck at 28 slots, and that's because the game's entire economy is based around players only having 28 slots and having to walk back to town for everything.
It sounds horrible, and I'm sure in practice it is horrible, but it's actually not a bad thing to peg your economy to, because it's not going to creep in any way.
Once you get over the initial hurdle of you only have 28 inventory slots and you just got to live with that, it makes finding ways to make things efficient and movement across the world way, way more valuable and more rewarding when you do find them. Like hitting a new range threshold to use a shortcut or a new agility threshold to use a shortcut is a big deal because it means it doesn't take as long to get back to the bank. Or hitting a new magic level so that you can teleport somewhere different. So there's that thing you can do. But as you can see on the interface, also I can pull up a sidebar. And with the mods I have installed, one of them is called Loot Table, the one I have pulled up right there, and it shows you the drops and the drop rates and how much gold everything goes for on the auction house at the current moment, and that's its price range sold that it will sell at, as in more than, I forget what the threshold is, but it's pretty good about it. So, like, the thing I'm farming right now is a specific weed from these guys that has a 1 in 25 chance of dropping, and it will sell for as much as 1,482 gold. Oh, no, wait, that's the wrong one. 13,948 gold. So I'm currently killing old men to get their weeds to go sell on the market.
Well,
I see.
Yeah, don't think about it.
Things that video games make you say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just got one to drop. I can do this and show you another feature of the mod. It is very nice. So also I can change my loot drops to have thresholds on their gold value that shows me what they look like when they drop. Like they're currently selling for 7,000. The one on the ground is dynamic. So it shows me what it's worth right now if I sell it. And it also lets me keep track of how fast I'm leveling up my skills and how many actions per left I have to do, or how many kills I have left to do to level something up. And it shows me kills per hour and XP per hour. And it just has all kinds of information that makes this stuff way easier. It also has mini-map mods and map mods. Like if I pull up my map and go to RuneScape Surface, all of the stuff on the world map is very hard to decipher normally. But my map has a lot more stuff on it. If I post my map. So my map will
pop my
have a
map.
zillion. Yeah, but if you hover over anything like a shortcut, it doesn't tell you what the heck that shortcut does or what it requires. But if I hover over mine, it'll tell me requires level 31 agility. It also does not tell you where the boats go. It just says transportation. Mine changes the pop-up to say ship to destination, or if it's a charter ship where you can pick your destination, it says charter ship. It also shows me the fairy ring network and the spirit tree network so that I know where those are. I can use them to move around. Really handy stuff that the base game just doesn't have.
Yeah.
So
Quality of life was not a thing in games when
No.
it was made.
No, it wasn't. And you just kind of had to know all this stuff.
No, that's how you become a man online. You've got to do abusive game mechanics and know a whole bunch of minutiae that nobody else does.
So yeah.
But in fact, that very concept has really been mythologized since that stopped being the case. Like if you look at, say, the way Log Horizon is written, all that stuff is heavily mythologized. That culture of players knowing things that aren't heavily documented anywhere.
Yeah, the problem is the internet exists now.
Yeah.
Well, the internet exists in that context as well, but the dream that is presented there is of a game that has so much content that's produced at such a rate that even the internet can't categorize everything in a searchable way.
A lot of the times when that pops up, it's because the content is procedurally generated. So there's just all unique stuff constantly happening.
Yeah.
And alternatively, in the current season of Log Horizon, because there are dark things in the past of the game involving turning in 3,000 scales that people want to forget.
Yeah. Or in one memorable case of a story I read, because the game is controlled by an AI, and the AI is a malicious asshole.
Well,
that thing in Log Horizon about that turning in scales quest to those two useless NPCs, that really struck a chord. That was
somebody
no damn feel.
Somebody did the AQ event.
Yeah, I remember AQ.
Yeah, somebody was trying to get a scepter on the dev team there, I think.
Yeah. Cool concept of an event, but oh boy, was it badly executed.
Well, I mean,
for me, it was executed perfectly, including server crashes, because it allowed us to prevent Sodge from getting his resonating crystal.
Yes, that's right. And that was every server that happened on too.
Except it was a wide scale cooperative event between all of the people playing the game on both sides on that server who all hated this one person.
Man, you got to be a special kind of a-ho to unite Alliance and Horde and Vanilla.
Yeah.
But
Vanilla WoW was like let's cram the entire population of the server into a tiny area and see what happens.
Yeah, that didn't go so well. It didn't go off with the servers. Everybody there, as I remember when the AQ event was happening on Durazon, everybody thought it was the coolest thing ever, even though the server kept dying.
Oh yeah, I remember at the time on Greymane it was the same story. It was a lot of fun.
I deeply resented it.
Yeah.
I want that rune cloth. I was a tailor. I'm not giving my rune cloth to anybody, thanks so very much. I don't care what you get out of it.
Yeah. The only part of it that really sticks out is the day of the opening, but
Red Snapper.
There is no Red Snapper.
There was Red Snapper in Terraria. But yeah. Anyway, I've just been poking at OSRS. I've set a tentative goal of getting all the Steam Chivos. Which unfortunately you cannot get the actual achievement for if you have RuneLite running, so you have to unlog RuneLite and then log in via your Steam account.
Yeah.
To whenever you get to a point in a quest that you would trigger a Chivo, but there's only 20 Chivos. And to finish the Dragon Slayer quest so I can equip a Rune Simi, and that's where I'll call it.
Yeah.
But it's actually, if you pay for membership, it's not that bad to get to the level 35-40. It doesn't take very long at all.
You sound like an advert. If you have to pay for membership, it's not that bad.
Well, this is the story of RuneScape when you're a kid, right? I was the kid that had the membership, and everybody else was complaining about how long it was taking to level stuff. I'm like, there's a quest that just gives you like 20,000 experience in prayer, right? You don't have to spend all of your time burying bones to get the protection from prayers. You can skip over half of it. They're like, but we're not members, so we don't have that quest. I'm like, oh, that's right.
Yeah, well, you need to check your membership privilege.
Yeah, so this game is grindy in general, and it'll be grindy at the end game no matter what. But you can skip a lot of the early game grind with being a member and get to equip stuff. But there's no getting around this game. It's just a big grind fest. It's just something to do with your hands. Like I've pegged more and more games in, and this one's a little different in that it just has a nostalgia factor. I like going back and flicking through the quest text. The quest text is really short in this game, and the quests none of them are serious at all.
Yeah.
They're all funny.
A lot of them I've found, like, yeah, okay, you're supposed to be the hero of the land or whatever, but nobody treats you like that.
Yeah, it's weird, and all the humor written in the jokes is, how do I put this? It's late 90s, early 2000s humor. And while it hasn't been dated by events that the jokes reference, because they don't really reference real world events, it just feels like has a late 90s, early 2000s feel to it with all the writing.
I feel like the late 90s, early 2000s was the age of the highest amount of cringe and humor.
Yeah,
like, it's not as like these days in the modern era, in the sort of the Zoomer generation. I don't feel like humor exists anymore. Like there are no funny jokes. Period. But I feel like in the late 90s, early 2000s, all of the jokes were jokes that were like they were dad joke tier, and they would turn into dad jokes as soon as the people growing up in that generation became dads.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very dry, on the nose humor with a very blunt punchline. But it's interesting going back and going, oh wow, yeah, that really was how they wrote all these quests, and just going back and seeing the old game again. But I wouldn't recommend this as a serious game for anybody at all.
No, absolutely not.
And not even as something to really waste your time with, unless you played it back in the day. To go back and see what it's doing now and see what it's like again, and remember. Oh, I remember sitting here for hours grinding. As you sit there for hours grinding again. Because they haven't softened the grind at all.
No.
They put in a few more quests that reward some EXP, but they all require absurd combat levels, or you to have access to stuff that you just won't have access to for a long time. If you take...
Yeah, you got those early game challenge quests from that guy near the castle back there, and that's about it from what I can tell.
In free to play, you're probably good for quests up to combat level 40. After that, you have Dragon Slayer, which you really should probably be about combat level 50 if you're playing normally and not, optimizing yourself with potions and consumables from the auction house. And that's really it. Nothing goes higher because you only have to kill level 83 dragon in that quest. Which and that you should be able to take that on fairly comfortably at about combat level 50 without having to worry about dying, as long as you use your prayer points.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like mini boss level for a boss that's properly supposed to have a challenge. So yeah, it's been an interesting ride coming back to it. I don't think I'll stick with it much longer. My Steam playtime says something absurd because I left the launcher just open, because I forget that this game will just kick the launcher back if you AFK for a minute and keep the game running forever.
Well, I mean, those sorts of things, they may be kind of annoying in some respects, but the alternative is of not having all of those weird little things in there is that your game turns into MapleStory.
Yeah. They have a ton of anti-botting measures aside from their, modern day detection system. And they kept one of the old ones in because players didn't want it taken away, because it's a good source of really valuable materials that you just don't want to go farm, or unique emotes and items. And that's the random events anti-botting measure, where somebody will pop up and an NPC will start saying, "Hey, Aristil, hey, talk to me. I need to talk to you," over and over again, and follow you around. And if you don't respond to him, you'll get kicked. And if you do talk to them, you have the option now. It didn't used to be optional. you have the option of starting a random event where you'll be taken away and teleported to a different area. And you will have to do a short mini game that is like you're stuck in a prison cell, and the lock shows a shape, and you need to pick the key that matches the shape. But all the keys are swinging on a keychain in a circle, so you can't make out their shape for more than a second. So the auto detection bots couldn't figure it out. So stuff like that.
I think I saw the old guy nagging some other player a moment ago.
Yeah, and there's like 80 billion of these different random events you can get. I think it's like 64, but they all do random stuff. Like a cat called Evil Bob will kidnap you and take you to a deserted island where you have to go catch a fish, uncook the fish, and then feed him the fish. And you have to
uncook the fish. How do you do that?
Yeah, he has a pot of he has a pot of uncooking. Because you can
see.
You have to catch a pre-cooked fish and then stick it in the pot of uncooking and feed it to the cat. And the way you perform these operations is weird in that you can't left click at all. You have to use the right click menu, and where the options to uncook the fish are randomized to confuse the bots. So I thought it was a really cute and creative botting measure when I really thought about it. And it rewards you with like a good chunk of fishing experience.
Long as it is actually fun, as opposed to just being the MMO version of what do you call them? A capture.
Yeah. Well, that's what
I hate those things more than anything else on Earth. Like every time I see one of those, I just feel this irrational rage well up from within me.
So, hey, it's here specifically to waste my time. Yay.
In RuneScape Classic, they were captchas. Like Classic.
Oh my goodness.
You would have a fixed amount of stamina that you could level up skills with. And when you ran out of stamina, you had to go to a bed or use your bedroll to sleep. And your character would go to sleep, and a big old captcha would pop up on your screen, and you couldn't resume playing unless you entered the captcha.
Oh.
And if you tried to log in, out and back in, it would just be the same captcha screen, and you couldn't replay until you got past the captcha.
I would be ready to commit homicide.
Yeah. Apparently I was just watching a RuneScape history video on the background while I was doing something about 2 weeks ago. And apparently, if you wanted to level your thieving skill in old school RuneScape or something like that, you had to sleep like once every minute and a half. So they calculated it at somewhere around 20,000 captcha screens to get from level 70 to 99.
Just no.
Oh, I feel nauseous just thinking about it.
So yeah, that would be awful. But thankfully, we have the random event system instead, which you don't even have to do. You can opt out of them now because that measure isn't very effective against modern bots.
Mm-hmm.
And they just have modern bot detection software, which is why you're only allowed to use the RuneLite launcher, because you can only go into their client with a RuneLite and its approved add-ons, because Jagex has those on file and knows what those are.
Yeah.
So they tell their detection bots to ignore those. But yeah, so it's been interesting. The only tip I got, if you do decide to go back, you can level your melee up to about, and your defense and your attack, your defense, and your strength up to about 20. That's about where you need it to not get absolutely murdered. Get your HP up to 20, and then switch to magic and use magic exclusively, because the only thing, if you do decide to pay and become a member, that there is no easy quest for that has a gajillion magic experience. There's a ton that give attack, strength, and experience like that, but not magic. Even prayer has some, and you need magic to teleport. Every single teleport spell in the game is tied directly to your magic level. So I switched to using magic exclusively as soon as I realized this, and it didn't take but about just killing old men for their weed. It took about 6 hours down here, probably, while I was doing something else at the same time, because you're just sitting here auto-casting at a dude for 20 seconds. You don't have to look at the screen most of the time. You can do something else while you're doing it. About 6 hours of that, I got to level 55, which is enough to teleport to everywhere except to the Watchtower, Trollheim, Apatoll, and some castle that's new. I think it's on one of the islands. But yeah. So make sure you level up your magic. Also, you need 55 magic to cast high level alchemy so that you can actually vendor stuff, because it gives you the vendor price of a specialty shop when you high level alchemy it. So it would be as though you sold arrows to an arrow shop instead of to a general store.
Handy.
Yeah, and it does it for any item that has say it'll be able to be sold to a vendor. So yeah, that's OSRS. I'm not playing it real seriously. It's just something easy to do. And we were talking about it a few weeks ago, and then we talked a bit more about it last week. But I wasn't really even going to mention it because it's just such a nothing burger in what I'm doing. It's just in the background. But I just haven't had time to do anything this week, so I'll just go with what I did most in the off time I had last week. So yeah, that's it. I did nothing this week.
All right. Well, how about we just jump straight into the email?
Yeah, go for it. You got it up already? Somebody got it up?
I've got it up. Can you people be trusted to read emails? I don't think so.
Absolutely not.
Right. Dear No Excuses, do you love space? Am I reading the right one? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
I just thought I'd check because I took a shortcut to my inbox and it actually put me on some random email initially. Okay. Dear No Excuses, do you love space? I love space, or maybe I don't, and it just happened the last bunch of games I played all took place in space. For example, the Doom mod Alien Bastards, which is based on the old side-scrolling shooter Halloween Harry. Because of course there has to be Doom in my emails, and I haven't played the Doom Eternal DLC enough to formulate an opinion. Or Tin Can, a small Unity project where you are in an escape pod desperately trying to keep the systems functioning by cannibalizing components. It's early access, and there is only a sandbox mode, so I ended up refunding it. It could be a fun meme game when it has more content in the future. Or Virgo versus the Zodiac. My Stellaris side continues. Virgo, the purest of Zodiacs, continues her just crusade to restore the Golden Age. 10 or so hours in, and I think I'm starting to get the hang of the combat system. 10 or so hours in, and I still can't quite put my finger on what kind of humour the game is aiming for. But if you want an 8-bit JRPG with active combat, check out the demo, because Steam apparently has brought back demos, which is nice. Or Breathedge, aka Soviet Space Subnautica, where your ship explodes from eco-terrorists and everything goes downhill from there. The framing for the story is that you are being interrogated by the robot mafia, who do the whole shtick of lighting up a cigarette and blowing smoke in your face, except they are robots so they can't blow smoke.
It also
So
gives
you
the
spit on
opportunity
the
to turn said cigarettes into carrots, by the way.
So you spit on the interrogator's face in defiance, but you are still in your spacesuit, so you just mess up the inside of your helmet. It goes downhill from there. I can see what they were aiming for here, and the game is alright, but Subnautica seemed to have more depth in every sense of the word. That and pretty glowing fish, excellent sound design, and atmosphere. Every pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
Or Space Station 13. No, not on the furry server. I'm
Nice,
just a
they're all
basic
furry
bitch
servers.
fluffy tail enthusiast, thank you very much. Still learning the controls and everything. Space Station 13 might be the second most complex game after Dwarf Fortress, so I don't have any funny anecdotes on the level of I've placed voice-activated explosives in the clown, but whenever I sign up for security I have problems with clowns, which is why I usually chill, tending the bar, growing plants, or just cleaning stuff. Still doesn't stop me from being abducted and getting experimented on by shape-shifting aliens, or being eaten by different kinds of shape-shifting aliens, but there are far less rules to follow. And once the station's AI was turned into a cat boy, so they have that going for them, which is nice. Serious.
I kind
So,
of do want to
he
sit down
says-
one day and learn Space Station 13.
He says he's not playing on a furry server, but
That's a lie.
he-
They're all furry servers.
but he just said they turned the Space Station AI into a catboy.
Yeah, they are
Yes,
all furry
but
servers.
at best, it's full of furry infiltrators.
Yes. The clown is a spy, and by spy we mean furry.
Like, I can understand you making that claim if it was like a cat girl, because those are an anime trope and have and are documented as just being a thing some anime girls have if they have some cat-like features. But if it's a cat boy, then I'm not inclined to believe that,
Yeah.
because there is no such thing as the anime cat boy, and that's popular.
So yeah, I want to learn that game, but my goodness, is it complex.
Yeah, and if it's one of those weird, hard to learn games, from what I understand, because it's a role play game as well,
Yeah, like from
and
what I
like a
understand,
traditional role play game.
yeah, as I understand it, your best to, when you first start is to like play a bunch of rounds as a janitor or an assistant or something like that. And then move
Where
up.
your job is to give assistance.
Yes, do as you're told, learn the systems, and then you can go on to the more fun stuff.
Or burn your hands off trying to hack your way into places you don't belong.
Or get turned into a pizza.
Help! He's making her into a Papa John's.
You cannot give consent to be turned into a pizza.
Cannot consent to being a pizza.
So, Breath Edge I've played a fair bit of as well, and it is basically Soviet Space Subnautica. But I find once you get past the first act, it feels like it loses a lot of momentum. The first act is all about going out, getting your basic resources, increasing your equipment so you don't die the moment you step outside the airlock.
And then you realize communism can't support this type of economy or this many people.
Oh yeah, communism is played completely for laughs in this game. But yeah,
Which is pretty much the best thing you can do with it.
Yeah, but you hit a point where you've explored out a fair way and you've found some clues as to what's going on, and then it needs to start building a base. And I think it just really loses a lot of momentum at that point. There's also this weird thing when you go between the acts. So they released Act 1 pretty early on in early access, and then Act 2 later on. And there is a notable difference in the way that the suit AI presents the character. So, and the problem is when you actually play the game properly, it's like one line is the old presentation method, and then the next line is the new, and it's really, really jarring.
I see.
So, hang on, the suit AI just suddenly got a personality change mid-sentence. But it's not a bad game. It is a lot of fun, and the humor is a bit stretched at points because they try to make everything a joke, and it's But if you enjoyed Subnautica and you want something a bit lighter and sillier, definitely give it a go. On the other hand, though, Subnautica Below Zero is coming out of early access soon, so there's that.
I honestly can't remember which game Subnautica is, and I've been racking my brain fruitlessly attempting to remember.
It's the underwater survival one with the story and the giant Leviathan fish.
I see.
Yeah, I knew it was the underwater one, but so
well,
many.
You can tell that from the name.
Yeah, but there's so many of these survival type games. They just kind of all blur together in my head as a blob, and I can't remember which one is which.
Yeah, Subnautica is one of the very few that actually have a story and an endpoint. And that doesn't drag things out needlessly. So if you're going to play one survival game, play Subnautica.
All right.
As for the other games, I haven't even looked at Tin Can. Let me see. Let me look this thing up. As long as it's not a YouTuber bait game. There's too many of those. Tin Can.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a streamer bait game, but maybe they've got designs on doing something a bit more ambitious in future.
It looks like they
hope.
do. But yeah, maybe they've just come into early access a bit early. So yeah, it looks like a cool concept. Just try not to die for as long as you possibly can. So yeah. And Virgo vs. the Zodiac. Why does that one sound awfully familiar?
I know that it's come up on my Steam front page a couple times, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I got weird vibes looking at the store page for it when it popped up for me. So I didn't try it and just assumed, if it's really good, somebody will tell me about it later.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite put my finger on why I was skeptical of it. I don't even
I think that this is because you were burned by that time where the skill tree was left-wing propaganda.
Oh, yeah. The Rogue Legacy 2.
Yeah.
Which was Rogue Legacy is a very popular series, but and Serathis was talking about it. I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. Universal health step in the tiers. Socialism just got worse, and the upgrades flavor text with socialism just got worser. Yeah, no, we refunded that. Fastest refund I ever did.
Because they're making socialism worse.
No, like the joke is that that's a really good talent to take because you get starting money in a roguelite like game.
Yeah.
And that they're going, haha, this is so bad, right? No, it was total pure socialist propaganda.
But it is. There's no question about that. Their objective is to mock anybody who opposes socialism.
Yeah. Like, no.
Who opposes the most murderous ideology ever to walk the face of this planet.
Anyway, so, yeah, I'm not sure if we've really got anything else to say about the other ones or Doom.
Yeah. I feel bad for Serathis because none of us play Doom, but he writes us so much.
Nobody plays Doom as much as Serathis does. But I think it would be an unreasonable expectation to place upon anybody.
I do like Doom, though. I'm just not very good at it.
Well, most people like Doom because they played Doom when they were younger. But most people don't continue to play it until Serathis has got to be at least in his mid-30s by now.
I do periodically play it. I haven't played any of the recent ones, but I will occasionally go back and play the original one just for kicks.
I do still have that Doom mod installed where it randomly generates a challenge for you. And yeah, that one gets messy. Whoops. There. Have I just lagged out of this game? Nope. There it goes.
No. The servers are not 100% in this game, despite because they're old.
Uh-huh.
Still, I don't know if they've upgraded the server tech since 2007.
The last time I played RuneScape, honestly, was on dial-up.
Yeah, it's meant to compensate a lot on your client's end, but
don't.
if you desync from the server hard, then you can get hung up pretty bad.
Yeah.
This is apparently a very bad issue where they had to rejig it even before 2007, so that in like the wilderness or the high level dungeons you wouldn't lag because you have to enable your protection from magic from your prayer and turn it right back off for certain boss moves.
Oh, I see.
And stuff like that. And if you can't turn it off quick enough, you'll use too many prayer points while you keep it up because it drains your prayer constantly while it's active. But if you can't activate it in time, you'll take the hit instead of negating it.
Yep, and die.
Yeah. So there became a whole lag meta where people would overshoot the timing and just take prayer potions with them, and so prayer potions became incredibly expensive. I'm actually farming the material right now to make prayer potions because people still overshoot it because of server hiccups.
Yeah, but at least it's not like I'm actually playing this game the smoothest I've ever seen it. But again,
I have.
I'm not on dial-up anymore.
Yeah, one of the mods is animation smoothing.
Yep.
And it looks absolutely amazing compared to what it normally does.
The base animations are pretty crap.
Yeah, the total jank. But yeah, it has a nice animation smoothing feature that is very nice and actually gives your character a proper walk cycle instead of alternating between 4 JPEGs.
Yeah.
That are mirrored.
That's a thing.
So yeah,
anyway,
it actually.
Yeah, so thanks you very much for the email, Sarah. This, yeah, I will still recommend people do give Breath Edge a go. Even if, like, I will probably go back and finish it at some point, but yeah, just be prepared for that real momentum shift in Act 2. Or between Act 2 and 3, depending on how you want to call it.
Is this a released game or a...
Yes, it just came out of early access a few weeks ago.
Right, okay.
So, yeah. And one day I will play PlayStation 13 and probably have my my legs chewed off by something horrible.
I'm going to need to be in a very, very specific mood to try Space Station 13.
Well, you got to
You're going to end up on a very, very furry server.
They're all furry servers. Alright, let us look at a bit of news, shall we?
All right.
What do we got?
Vol found the news this week, so I think most of it's on him.
Why is there
But,
a picture of a Minecraft
Is that how it
emo
works?
in there?
No, I can't get the show host thing to pull up right this microsecond, so I'm stalling. Okay.
Yeah, why did you put a random picture of a Minecraft emu in the show host channel, by the way?
Oh, because Abo sent that to me in the middle of the show, and I'm just like, Fern needs to see this.
What, does he think emus are cute too?
No,
they're
just
not.
one of the mods just added the Australian animals pack that we use when we updated the server today.
Yes, there's drop bears.
What, do
in
you
there
people want to
now.
die?
Yes.
Why would you voluntarily introduce Australian fauna on an unsuspecting server?
Because screw you. That's why.
This is an act of cruelty. I'm pretty sure that's banned under the Geneva Convention.
It's got drop bears
Probably.
now. Actual drop bears.
Yeah, drop bears are in the nether now, and they're just bears that fall from the ceiling and hit like a tanker truck.
You
Oh,
mean like they do in Australia?
Yes, exactly right. They land on your head and immediately rip it off. That's their choice approach. So let us see. Let me go back up to the top. Let's start at the top of the pile. So yeah, we mentioned it earlier in the show. There's a new Multi-Blood game coming out.
Yeah, so we don't have too many details, but there's some history behind the Melty Blood coming out, like right as soon as the Tsukihime remake got announced. And that history is, in Under Night and Birth, that game only exists because Nasu was lazy and wouldn't finish the Tsukihime remake. They were literally...
French Ben needs money now!
Yeah,
Yes.
French Press was about to go under. Their other projects weren't doing so well, so they had to make another fighting game. And so they made Under Night and Birth, and they stuck Scion, who was created for Melty Blood originally. The Scion we have in FGO now is either, I don't know if it's an alternate version of her or her sister. I forget how that switcheroo works and what universe which one's active.
In the Extraverse, Cialum survives. In all of the other universes, Scion survives, but in Grand Order, Scion doesn't inherit the title of the leader of Atlas, but she does in the Tsukihime setting, and I'm not sure about the main Fate setting.
Yeah. So Scion was created originally as a character for Melty Blood and has her story told in full there, if you want to know what happens with her. And they put her in Under Night.
Manga, it's easier.
Yeah, they put her in Under Night and Birth as Eltnum, spelled slightly differently, with very minor character tweaks, and her whole character doesn't participate in the main story. She's from another universe, and she's here to complain that there is no Melty Blood 2.
Hint, hint.
Wait, what?
Yeah, she is just there, and all of her character gags and quotes are, "Hurry up, Nasu, get off your butt, we need to release Melty Blood 2, like, right now."
Or we won't be able to pay the rent.
Yeah, so they've been waiting to do this one for quite a while. Melty Blood was lightning in a bottle. It hit at a good time for a 2D fighter during when it came out. It had a huge roster of characters, all of which were unique and fun to play, even if they were just alternate versions, because Nasu had to tell them what was okay to stick in.
Right.
So, but each one had a very unique feel to it for a 2D fighter. And
Well, I think it was at a time where, like, Tekken was not in ascendancy. It was considered boring. Dead or Alive was considered a button masher. Street Fighter everyone was sick of. Guilty Gear nobody could understand how to play. Like, there were lots and lots of weaknesses to all of the other ones on the market at that specific time.
Yeah, it filled the niche, something like BlazBlue and Dragon Ball FighterZ does now, but it filled it in a way that it was good enough at what it did to be accepted by the main fighting game community instead of just kind of thrown away. Like most anime fighters are now. Like every BlazBlue game lasts a year tops.
It's nothing to do with the equality, though.
Yeah, that's just
It's
the
due
stigma.
to the fact that well, I don't even think it's really a stigma. It's just due to the snobbery of Street Fighter players.
Yeah,
Like they would legit rather give Mortal Kombat a position on the roster than any anime fighter.
Yeah. So it's really hard to overcome that these days. And that didn't really exist with Melty Blood. And Melty Blood was one of the games that people really wanted to play. It had some of the biggest tournament viewership, if not the biggest player base. Well, its player base actually wasn't that big, but its viewer base was huge, at least within the fighting game scene. The problem was it was an anime fighter, so nobody wanted to tell their friends that they were watching a bunch of anime girls beat each other up.
Yeah.
I mean, Shiki's in there, but Tono Shiki is. But most of the cast is female, so it's mostly a bunch of girls beating each other up. And people are really excited for it. Melty Blood still has a scene going on right now, and you can't get in through the Steam ranked play. You have to use MBcaster still, because they tried to tack on in-house multiplayer to the client, and when they stuck it on Steam, but it doesn't work. It's somehow even,
or is it
it works. It's just so laggy that MBcaster is better, and MBcaster is bad. Like, you have to manually set your delay.
Oh my.
Yeah, I remember when you tried to tutorial me through it once, and I got bored of the game before I even launched it.
Yeah, it takes a lot of finagling to get that MBcaster to a workable setting, and even good luck trying to get it to work with people that aren't in your region.
Yeah.
It just ain't.
Just don't.
It's not going to cooperate. So a lot of people are looking forward to this. I don't know exactly what they're going to change. I imagine they'll keep the moon system, which was very interesting, that it turned all characters into effectively 3 different characters, depending on which moon you picked, because it would change their special moves and the way they functioned. They would have similarities to how they worked before, but they would have radically different properties, and their animations would be different. So you could pick crescent moon, half moon, and full moon, and they would change how you acquired super meter and how you charged it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you could, in tournament play, they wouldn't let you switch characters, but you could switch moons. And so if somebody picks a powerhouse character against you and is totally bodying you, you were allowed to switch to a half moon, which is the defensive moon, to try and counter it, or some other moon that has a special move that you need to get around that character.
I mean, that's a good tactic for making the game popular as well. Not least because it improves the spectator aspect.
Yeah,
because you can like armchair strategist for the people who are playing, and also you don't have to watch someone just get bodied because, oh well, this is a bad matchup, and I guess he's just going to get wrecked.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to watch. One of the best tournaments to watch if you can still find it. You certainly can't find it in high quality because it was recorded and printed to a VHS tape. But it was the Battle at the Gazebo. Back when Spooky was good at casting and wasn't, trying to PC censor himself. Like, you hear these commentators that for the FGC now are so careful in what they say. But this is back in the days when you would hear Yike shout like Pringles at the top of his mouth whenever something ridiculous happened.
Well, if you say the wrong thing now, you just never work in this town again. That's it. And there's no one willing to stand up against that and give them a job.
That's right.
At that point.
Like,
so,
old school shoutcasters I found extremely obnoxious, but now they've gone far too far the other direction.
Yeah. But it's a little different watching somebody that's genuinely good at it commentate a fighting game in a community of friends that are also doing it, also playing it, than it is just listening to a shoutcaster that's paid to shoutcast specifically, because then the FGC was small when Melty Blood was around.
Yes.
I mean, it had its New York scene, and its SoCal scene, and its Central scene, and its Southeastern scene, and each of those individually was not very many. So there just weren't that many people playing. So the community being as small as it was allowed to have personalities in it that had actual personality and were fun to follow. So a lot of the people, when they remember Melty Blood, I'm wondering if they're remembering Melty Blood or if they're remembering the environment Melty Blood was in. Because that was a totally different scene than modern day professional fighting game players.
Sounding an awful lot like our conversations about World of Warcraft.
Yeah. So I genuinely like the game a lot. I love playing it. I think it's one of the best technically built fighting games for all levels of player. There's some character somewhere with some moon that somebody will like. And,
Also, if you just happen to like a character, you can just pick a moon that you'd like to play from them.
yeah,
You don't get stuck in the situation where you think a character's really cool, but you just dread having to play them because you know you're going to get bodied.
you can usually find a moon that's acceptable for you. I usually played Full Moon, which was the aggressive style, and I played Arcwade. And this was before I had gotten into CKMA at all. I don't even know if I had sat down and read the VN yet. But I gravitated straight towards Arcwade without having a real clue who she was because she was just so much fun to play.
Mhm.
And they do styles of character you don't see in 2D fighting games anymore a lot, or they did in the original. There's proper spacing characters that are not ranged characters or footsie characters or rushdown characters, where your objective was to keep them at a fixed point of distance away from you to do the most damage and keep yourself safe. And you just don't see that type of character anymore. You had summon characters like Nero, who would summon like the deer and the mantis stick, and they would just auto attack for you, and you had to.
Well, they used to actually call it Mantis Stick.
Yeah, if you go watch Battle at the Gazebo,
I'm pretty sure you can't get that anymore.
No, you're not getting that anymore. But that's what everybody called it because that's what all the commentators called it.
I see.
Because nobody's versed enough in Nasuverse lore at the fighting game community to know. Actually, no Nero Chaos. It probably is Mantis Stick. but yeah, he had a move where he would turn his trench coat open and away from the screen, and a giant feeler-like appendage that was straight with a slight curve to it and very long and did a ton of damage would flip up and whip across the screen.
Oh dear.
So it looked like he was whipping them with something that came out in that particular part of his body.
Oh dear.
And because it had feelers on it, it was called Mantis Stick.
Oh no.
So yeah, and he would summon deer and little puddles of bitey mouths and owls and crows that he would send after you. And you don't see very many chain summoning characters anymore. That's an older experimental fighting game character type that just doesn't exist anymore because people.
Well, you can still see traces of inspiration from characters from that were quite like. There's a lot of characters in BlazBlue that quite clearly were inspired by a Melty Blood character, usually taken in a slightly different direction, but you can see the heritage there.
Yeah, I think a lot
particularly
of
with characters like Rachel's clearly derivative from Melty Blood, Arachne's derivative from Melty Blood.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the French bred team over time, just because that company doesn't make very much money, went to go work for Arc System Works over time.
Yeah.
So they probably got stuck on Blue Team as well, because Guilty Gear is reserved for the best of the best and the veterans. But if they just show up from another company, they're probably good enough to get hired, but probably not good enough for the Guilty Gear team. So I could totally see a scenario where most of the French bred team joined the Blue Team and worked on Melty Blood. So yeah, it's coming out. I don't know if we have any real details on it yet, aside from it's coming. And this, to put why they were waiting so hard and waiting on this, is because way back when Nasu first announced the CKMA remake, he promised French bred publicly that they would be allowed to make Melty Blood 2 as soon as the remake came out. And so French bred had to sit on that.
Well, I mean, they clearly don't know Nasu very well if they were willing to count on that.
So the microsecond Tsukihime 2 gets a public announcement, not they start gearing up to make Melty Blood 2. They were ready to. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they have assets laying around that are ready to go.
Well, I expect they've done a lot of drawing of sprites and stuff in the meantime. I mean, there are lots of screenshots that were put out with the first press release, which suggest very strongly that that was in production, and some of them look a little bit off model, like they weren't supplied with a full set of reference sheets before they drew them.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that they probably had the bones of the game already drawn out.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I can't wait to play it again. The characters look fine. Health bar looks like it did before. I like that they put clear delineation markers on levels of Magic Circuit, which is your super meter. Instead, it would just be you had to know what percentage you needed for certain moves, and
and hope you were actually there.
Yeah, and hope you calculated the right amount. But they've marked it in 3 ticks because the most common usage was 100%, 200%, and 300%. So they just made 1 bar with 3 levels on it now with a hard and clear cutoff points, which I like that on the UI a lot more. It looks like it shows your moon style, so I'm fairly certain they're keeping the moon style in the screenshots. And they have the beat system back, which is a really unique thing to Melty Blood that lets you tailor your playstyle a bit better, and that you could sacrifice damage to invent combos on the fly to make comboing a bit easier. And Crescent Moon had the best version called Reverse Beat, where you could actually start an attack chain with a heavy attack and work your way all the way back to light attack and chain backwards instead of the usual way you go, light, medium, heavy.
That's very hard to envision, I have to say.
Yeah, it's
I can't imagine it from your description.
It's very unique. And it's just a hard animation cancel that's only useful for comboing. But I don't know how they'll adjust that. Rapid beat, I have no idea what that is. I think that's a new type of beat. That's in one of the screenshots. So yeah, looking forward to that one. It's a game I've enjoyed playing a lot, and we'll be happy to play with people when it's on an actual multiplayer platform when we don't have to use MBcaster. Yeah. And hope it's since French Bread
comes out, you still need to.
Yeah. So because French Bread's been sitting on this one so long, I have a bit more confidence in the project than I would on other things because they've been chomping to make this game for how long since the announcement?
Yes.
They've been waiting since to make this game. They made a character in their interim game whose whole joke is, I want to make this other game, but Nasu won't let me. So I think they have enough love for the project to make it good again. I'm just wondering if it'll be able to hold up to the standards we have for quality of life and stuff like that in fighting games, and whether it can actually take off. Well, I say take off, I mean get on its feet and run with its small community for the rest of its life. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. Alrighty. Let's see, that's the follow-up with Sekihime. Alright. Who wants to talk legal nonsense?
Nobody ever wants to talk legal nonsense except Nick.
Except for Nick, and he's usually drunk, so that's fine.
So this one's actually probably worth talking about because of what's happening to anime in the West.
And how
just
bad.
Well, it's being brought into monopolistic control.
Yes.
Like only the most diehard people will afford it, and they will just try to cultivate the whales at this rate.
So, in light of that, Sony was gearing up to purchase Crunchyroll, and now they're looking at an antitrust suit.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really. I don't think it's really a suit, is it? It's more sort of a government investigation. They aren't being sued.
Yeah, an antitrust probe, then, as the article calls it, I should say. Yes, correct terminology is important. So I don't know a whole lot about this sort of thing.
Well, basically, what happened was that quite some time ago now, Sony announced that they were planning to purchase Crunchyroll, and AT&T wanted to shed Crunchyroll as a property.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite sure what their reason was, but that was as I understood the case to be. This, however, it's comes down to a question of definitions on animated material and whether or not you create a distinction between anime and any other type of animation, because there's not really that much in the way of competition in the US particularly, because I mean, if we factor something like Anime Lab out as that's sort of a local thing for Fern and I mean, you can use it from anywhere more or less, but it is the Madman distribution.
Yeah, it's
based out of Melbourne.
Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
And they do have some nice features, admittedly.
But generally speaking, there's Crunchyroll, and then there's like High Dive. And then there's Funimation itself, which is already owned by Sony.
Yeah.
So Funimation is owned by Sony, and then that means that if they take Crunchyroll as well, it puts High Dive as the only non-Sony controlled anime streaming platform, which is pretty much monopolistic control over all licensing and streaming of anime.
Yes.
Now, Sony's contention is that this doesn't count because all of the animation collectively on Netflix counts, and they are just streaming a portion of the animated material market, which is a much larger slice of media than anime is. Like, their contention is that you can categorize something like The Simpsons alongside something like Dragon Ball Z as being the same type of product in competition for the same audience.
They're absolutely not.
But the thing is, can you get a boomer judge to understand that?
That is an interesting question, yeah.
Because if they can make that case, then they don't have monopolistic control over any part of the industry, because Amazon and Netflix are both then in the same arena with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Netflix and Amazon have trivial amounts of anime on their services, but they have plenty of other animated material, and it allows Sony to rope in Disney Plus as a competitor in the anime market.
Yeah.
By claiming that there's no difference. So this is going to set a lot of precedents for where antitrust can be used in response to claims of monopoly over particular types of media distribution, because the distinction being made between East and West here is just being made by the viewers and no one else. There's no legal discrepancy there. You can't really draw one, because a lot of people would say that there is a huge overlap between, say, the market for Avatar: The Last Airbender and the market for mainstream shonen anime.
Yeah.
You can make that argument, but you can't make the argument that there's a lot of overlap between Family Guy and like some random anime that's streaming that's just new this season. Like, you can't say, oh, Family Guy is the same thing as, say, that Spider anime.
Yeah,
there's not really a genre overlap there. They just happen to both be things that are drawn.
They're both animated.
Yeah.
That's the only similarity.
And the boomer judge is the biggest hurdle here.
Yeah, because ultimately, if this probe, the judge is not the first hurdle, because this probe first has to find that there's a case that needs to be brought before a judge regarding antitrust, because this is quite clearly an antitrust move. Sony is quite clearly attempting to gain a monopoly here, to gain control of this market, and there's a chance that the people who are organising this buyout at Sony are in fact boomer enough to believe the things they're saying, but it's not a very big chance. It is most likely that this is a direct attempt to gain monopoly in a way that they can establish it before there's any legal precedent to draw a line through that market separating Eastern animation from Western animation. So first the probe has to successfully find there's a case to be made, then they have to bring it before a judge and somehow explain to a judge the difference between these two types of media and convince them that there is a case for using antitrust measures to prevent the sale from going through. This preventing the sale from going through will wreak havoc with AT&T and Sony's plans for the future, and generally speaking, America has been strangely, in some ways and happily in others, reluctant to use the antitrust legislation. Because, I mean, antitrust legislation is dangerous. If you go hog wild with it, that's just basically centrally planned economy and you end up in a socialist state. If you don't use it at all, you might as well not have it, and you end up with things like Google controlling basically all of the information that people see and being able to fix elections. So, yeah, the antitrust laws are dangerous to use, but they are there to be used. The question is always, can you make the case that this is a safe and appropriate time to deploy it? And I think that it is appropriate to prevent Sony from making off with the entire anime streaming market here. But because it's a niche hobby, it's still a niche hobby to watch anime, it's very hard to make that case to a judge.
Yeah.
Because it's just not well understood. And I don't know if there has been a similar case made in the past that, oh, well, while these two products are identical in their physical descriptors, the target audience is sufficiently different that they count as different markets.
Yeah, I don't think any of the lawyers, if they get any boomer judge, are going to have a real hard time arguing that there's no real difference between this and regular cartoons, and the judge will just roll with it. I don't think any of the lawyers will have trouble pushing that on a boomer judge at all at any stage of this suit.
And the thing is that even if the judge rules favorably for antitrust, the appeals process will be interminable.
Yeah, it'll be a nightmare.
It will go on and on and on and on. Though there is a limit to which a business can carry these things on, not because they are necessarily going to run out of money, but because it will no longer be an optimal market move to be tied up in legal proceedings for an extended period of time, especially when there's nothing to be gained from it other than going ahead with the thing you'd already planned to do. There is a situation where they just decide to cut their losses because it's too much trouble.
You also got to remember, this is a probe by the U.S. Department of Justice that's doing it, who have not been the most competent people lately.
They have never been the most competent people.
Yeah, I'm more. They've never been trustworthy or competent, but they are especially bad under good old Joe.
Well, their concerns lie elsewhere now. They're not really. Their concerns lie more along ideological axes than enforcing the law as written.
Yeah.
So there's no white pill here. Everything is up in the air. There is the potential that things will go well, but it's honestly not very hopeful because it's just such an unreasonably difficult case to make.
This is really a good case for needing judges to request the judge be specialized, or not specialized, but knowledgeable of the subject matter, and have that go through into court, because there's no way to pitch this to a boomer judge that makes any sense. You're just not going to be able to do it. There's no way to get a Judge Chup to understand what Animu is.
Oh, I had a funny feeling you were going to bring up his name.
Yeah.
He's synonymous in your mind with a bad judge now, isn't he?
I mean, he is a bad judge.
Well, yes, that's true.
And his name is Chup, and Chup's a funny name.
Oh, those books. All right. With that one then, I think we've got maybe one more. I don't honestly want to talk about Lawn Mowing Simulator.
Well, I put that there as a joke, so I wasn't really expecting you to. What are we going to talk about?
Reggie has left GameStonk.
Yeah. I don't think that's very stonks of him to do so.
I find that unbelievably stonks of him.
I mean, just ripped that joke right out of the show host chat.
Yes, you did. But he's walking away, and he'll reap the benefits of the whole GameStonks thing.
Yeah, it makes every sense in the world for Reggie, but he's supposed to take his shares and hold.
No, it's not as memeable if he leaves. If he's supposed to lead a zealous crusade and bring GameStop into the promised land.
Yeah,
that's what he's supposed to do at this point, because it's way more memeable and makes for a better story.
It would be nice, but even Reggie can't slap that sinking ship.
Yeah, if you had joined this company and had a few ideas on how to make it work better, and you are the vehicle through which Reddit clobbers Wall Street, might be a good time to just say, okay, I'm just going to take the L on this one and go somewhere else.
I'm just going to take my golden handshake and I'm off.
Yeah, just going to take the money and go on this one, because I don't think we can salvage anything, because GameStop's in a really awkward position after they were used as a cudgel. Because it has nothing to do with them being GameStop. It has everything to do with them being convenient.
Nobody knows the value of the business anymore at all. There's the market valuation is meaningless, and nobody will ever be willing to invest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, getting legitimate investors is going to be impossible.
Yeah, it doesn't help the fact that GameStonk has a really bad reputation these days too.
When did it ever have a good one?
Point.
It was it either had a bad reputation because it was bad, or had a bad reputation while being the only game in town.
Yeah,
Those were the only conditions at play.
those were it. So yeah, I believe that right now there's a whole thing going on about an employee who shared his stories from GameStop, and they're exactly what you might expect.
Yeah.
So,
Didn't you work at a place like that or something, Ari?
Yeah, I did. I worked at one very briefly while I was a teenager.
yeah,
I don't remember much of it, just because it was a teenager job. I worked a lot of retail jobs while I was in high school,
Yeah,
so it just kind of all goes in that blur. But yeah, I do. I worked with them early enough in their life cycle. It was, golly, Miss Molly, what console was out when I was about 15, 16?
Xbox. You would have been
would've been-
playing Fable and Halo.
A little bit
Yeah.
after that, yeah. So a little bit of, late OG Xbox, early 360 era. So they didn't have all the ridiculous policies they do these days, but they still had the pushing used games and how to sell them and trying to get you to shill for other games in the store. But
yeah, but they've
back when
always,
I did it,
paid peanuts for pre-owned games and treated their staff like absolute crap.
yeah. Back then, it was our training was to tell it to customers casually and try and engage them in natural conversation. It wasn't as in your face as it became later.
Later, it was like, "Would you like fries with that?"
Yeah, it wasn't quite "Would you like fries with that" yet. And our local store, I have at the time with that particular manager, I liked him. So I have a lot more sympathy for that store.
These
Him and
days,
his,
it's like, buy a pre-owned game or we'll come to your house and peel your dog.
yeah, while him and his girlfriend were running the store, it was fine. As soon as they left, the store turned into every other GameStop on the planet.
Yeah. Hey, Wizard Hat.
He probably quit because of all the mandates he was getting from higher ups telling him to behave a certain way when enough undercover reviewers came into his store to report back to the boss.
And before anyone says it, by the way, EB Games Australia is precisely the same.
Well, it's owned by GameStop.
Yeah,
It's
they're owned by this.
GameStop, but yeah,
Yeah,
putting it on the other side of the planet from their headquarters does not make any difference. So yeah, I'm interested to see where Reggie ends up after this, but he's still on the board for a bunch of other stuff. So
Well, he's still a big name. He hasn't lost any of his cachet in that sense. So
yeah, and he managed. This has hit the gaming news sites as a footnote for the most part. Nobody's really talking about it in internet circles. I think Reggie will be fine. I think most people have already forgot he worked at GameStop anyway.
yeah, they did.
So
I remembered in an offhanded sort of way because I sort of hoped like, oh well, maybe he thinks that he can do something for brick and mortar sector or something like that. Though I can't think what that could be. But apparently he couldn't think of anything. So
he might have had an idea, but as soon as Reddit used GameStop as a cudgel to break over the head of Wall Street, but the cudgel broke in the process.
I mean,
there is no.
Yeah, if it wasn't GameStop they used, it would have been at some other company of equal position.
Bed Bath and Beyond.
Yeah, are they doing that bad?
No, like they literally were used for that.
Oh,
Yeah, or
I
one of the theater companies was as well.
yeah, one of the theater companies was.
AMC.
I think it was AMC.
Yeah, it's
So, yeah. Shenanigans. Gotta love it. All right.
yeah. I can just see the investors going, "Ugh, is it really the business doing better, or did a bunch of people just decide that the Tendy Man was finally going to come?"
No, it was definitely the Tendy Man.
So yeah, I can't see any legitimate investor going, "Yeah, GameStop sounds like a good idea."
Well, I mean, what could they propose though? Like to sell to an investor to begin with? Like they're going to hit bankruptcy eventually.
Sooner rather than later, probably.
Like I can't think of anything that you could propose that would sound credible.
Yeah,
As a business model for the future, because what an investor always wants to hear about is how are you going to grow your company over the next 10 years or whatever.
I can think of maybe one way you can make a brick and mortar move forward at this day and age, and it involves basically burning the entire business model to the ground. So Yeah.
Well,
That's
there's
gonna
not
fly.
really going to be no investors going to say, "Oh, well, we want you to give us money so that we can just start over with our tarnished brand."
Exactly.
That's not.
You're better off
not really a good
starting
move.
over fresh.
You have to prevent people from finding out who you are, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and they always find out. Also, I'm fighting these stupid imps, and the damn things keep teleporting through walls.
Oh yeah, are you doing the quest to go get their beads?
Yeah, the beads.
I think I have one of them laying around my bank. I kill them whenever I see them, so I can nab the beads and go sell the beads on the auction house.
For
Yep.
people
They're-
who don't want to do the
Because
quest.
people don't want to do
Yeah.
the quest.
Because it's a 1 in 32 chance to drop the bead, and they can drop one of 4 colors,
Yep, and
And
need
it's
one of
random which-
each.
and you need one of each color.
Oh, there's the black bead.
I think I
Yoink.
have a white one in my bank I can go get for you.
That's one bead. So yeah, I think that's about it. So shall we start wrapping
I
up?
can't. Yeah, I can't think of any other news. I heard some rumor about Blizzard doing a mobile Overwatch product or something, but which sounds very
I-
Blizzard. But I
I
also don't
stopped
care.
caring halfway through that sentence.
Yeah, the only thing I care
Around the
about
time you heard the word Blizzard,
Yes.
the only thing I care about in that question is, was the fan reaction going to be to another mobile? Don't you guys have phones?
Oh, it's going to be delicious.
it would be nice to think that they will have learned their lesson from the last time.
But it's Blizzard. They never learn.
Tell them
That's
to
sort of their shtick, yes.
Yes.
walk into a crowd of PC gamers and go, "Don't you guys have phones?" While trying to shill a mobile product to them.
Yeah. A mobile product that nobody asked for.
The other newslet I saw was what's that thing called? Stadia.
Yeah.
Stadia attempting to shill their latest package with the new Resident Evil game that's coming out. It's like you know that all the fans of Resident Evil have played Resident Evil before, right? That's why they're fans, which means that they have another piece of hardware they play it on.
Then
You know that,
also got
right?
The
Right?
bundle with East and Trails.
Yeah, but Trails is niche
Yeah.
and needs you to really get in and be invested in the universe.
And everyone who wants to play it has already played it.
Yeah, there's franchises that are specifically for gamers. There's no general appeal there to people who don't have a gaming device.
Yeah, and Yeast is like the most gamer-focused dungeon crawling type game out there.
It's incredibly niche.
It is unbelievably
While
niche.
virtually everybody owns at least one East game, almost nobody actually plays them because it is a commitment.
Yeah,
Got maybe
I play.
3 of them in my Steam library.
I
played
have
like-
several as well, and I always mean to play them one day, but I never get round to it.
Yeah. Also, typing
But
East
yeah.
into Steam, it does not work. Yeah, I got 3 of them. Woof. It is apparently doggo time, so that's the cue to wrap up the show.
Do you have to work right after the show?
No, I do not.
Okay. Yeah. All right, folks. I think we're done. Closing comments, go.
I don't know why, but my screens just stop working properly whenever this dog enters the room.
It's a special power dogs have. Didn't you know dogs are psychic?
I guess.
You're a dog specialist. It's a well-known fact that dogs are psychic.
Yes.
All right, fine. Yeah.
All right. I promise to get a new mic stand sometime in the coming weeks. My old one is busted. The bottom screw completely just warped.
Oh, joy.
So I'm not sure how that happened. I guess that's what I get for getting the El Cheapo one.
Yeah.
It had the best reviews, but it was the El Cheapo one. So I guess I'll get a better one next time.
Okay.
All right, folks. We'll see you next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.